Welcome to Advanced Counselling Skills. Remember, you can't do advanced counselling until you've actually acquired those basic, effective, essential skills of, and you know what they are, active listening. That means listening with your eyes as well as your ears, your heart and your brain. Creating rapport through positive, open, accepting body language. Open questions. Empathising, and working with the client towards their feeling a greater sense of self-love, personal valuing, and then zipping up. So keeping those essential skills in mind, now have a look at other kinds of approaches and techniques and skills that are offered to you. Hello, Colleen.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Jeanie, hi. What would you like to talk about?
It's about the breakup of my marriage, and I feel the disastrous consequences of what I did after the breakup of the marriage, and that was to walk away totally, leaving my children, who are quite young, 8 and 5. And I walked away, even though I'd always considered myself a very good mother up till that time. And I still can't get over the fact that I did that. So it's been a long time now, and it's worked out okay. But I still live with the guilt, especially when people ask me straight out, how could you do that? I really don't have a simple answer. I try and make excuses. To live with the guilt, but it's always there.
So it's the feeling that you walked away from your children and you're still guilty about doing that.
Yeah.
As you say, even though it was a long time ago, there's still guilt there.
It's still as if it was yesterday.
Yes. You did say, they say, how could you do that? But you actually know the reason for your doing that, don't you?
Well, I think I do, but I think I beat myself up rather hard on that, because to me, in my eyes, it was the height of selfishness, and it's living with that, sort of thought.
The height of selfishness to...
Putting myself first, because I just felt I had to run, I had to escape.
Escape from?
Well, it was quite a violent marriage relationship. And there was physical violence. And so I learned very quickly to be submissive. And that sort of went on for the 12.5 years of marriage, being very submissive and not being myself. And just trying to be a good mother and also a good wife in spite of it. And then eventually it just all blew up, because I literally couldn't take any more. And the feeling I had was to run, just to escape. And I didn't want anything stopping me, responsibility of the children or anything. I just had to go. And in fact, I left the country and I went to live in a new country, just so that I could sort of like be anonymous and start all over again.
That feels very, very painful.
Yes, it was. It is, yeah.
And having left the country, did you stay in contact with your children?
Yes, that's what I did. I then tried to rationalize that it was like sort of the children being in a boarding school, because I had contact with them every holiday, and I would go back sort of like at the end of the month to try and see them. And for the last sort of like 18, 20 years, it was constantly going back. But of course, when I did go back, I met difficulties with my ex-husband, who has never ever forgiven me for doing what I did. And even after 23 years of the divorce, he still refused to attend the wedding of my son, because I was going to be there. And he didn't want to be in the same room as me. So there's a lot of unfinished business there. And I have a good relationship with the children now, because I didn't really abandon them. But that's what he told them, your mother's abandoned you. And so the children have had to live with all that sort of thing. So I've spent the last sort of 24 years trying to prove that even though I left them behind with him, that I did care for them, and I would sort of constantly try to prove that I wasn't such a bad mother. And I still feel that I'm still trying to do this. Because, you know, when the children sort of are just acting as normal young adults, I'm sort of trying to overcompensate, which I don't think they appreciate anymore. I have a good relationship with them, though, now.
Tell me about that good relationship you have with them.
Well, we're very close. They don't live in Sheffield, they live in Newcastle, but we're very close, especially with my daughter. And I see them as often as possible. But there's still this underlying sort of me trying to compensate for what I did.
And in what ways do you try to compensate?
Like, sort of, I keep making the contacts all the time. Because I don't want any long sort of periods where we don't hear anything. I make sure that I'm seeing them as often as possible. I sort of, well, just try to fit in with their lives in a way, still in rather submissive sort of way too. And, you know, they're young adults and they have their own lives, so I have to accept that as well, you see, that, you know, I can't always be sort of first and foremost in their life, and the father plays a very important part still. So in a way it's still ongoing, you know. But,
so is your husband, your ex-husband, in England?
Yes, yes, he lives, actually the children do work for him. So
I'm hearing there's still a bit of competition between you and your husband?
there is, yeah.
For their affections?
Well, I think I feel it, because I feel that I want them to prove that they love me as much as him, sort of thing, you know.
And it sounds like you're working so hard at proving how much you love them.
Yeah.
And almost I'm hearing you're asking for their forgiveness.
Yeah. Now with my son there's no problem there, but with my daughter there still is. We're sort of very close, but yet at the same time she sometimes pushes me away. And the unfortunate thing is, well, in my eyes, is that she's now picked a partner that's very much like my ex-husband. And I'm feeling history is repeating itself and wanting to go in there and rescue her. And she's telling me more or less to butt out.
That's very hard, isn't it? Sort of pulling back and trying to still hold them and care for them, but you have to be responsible towards them. You're not responsible for them. So right now, is there anything that's happened recently that suddenly triggered this? This feeling of, I think you used the word guilt.
Well, it's just that the last time I was there, I sort of spend half the time with my daughter and half the time with my son. And I'm very relaxed and easy with my son and his wife. But with my daughter, there is this underlying tension. And I think she feels torn between me and her partner. And there's this resentment between the partner and me as well, because there's all this sort of the past is being played out. And this last visit, I decided really not to go and stay with them anymore. I know it'll hurt her, but she doesn't realize how I feel about the partner, because I keep that quiet. But maybe she's picking up on it. And so I decided, well, I shan't go and stay with them. And so it's going to, I think, come out in the open now with that decision, why you're not going to come and stay with us. And I'm going to have to be quite sort of honest about that, which I haven't totally been, you see, with my feelings about the situation between how I feel with the partner and herself, and me included. Because there's competition there too, you see. And I'm not blameless, I'm not saying that.
That sounds very self-aware. Perhaps sometimes you can be too self-aware in knowing all the dynamics that are going on. Perhaps beating yourself over the head. And your daughter's name is?
It's Kate.
Okay. I'm Kate. Can you try and talk to me as your daughter? I'm your daughter. Can you try and say the things to Kate that you'd like to say?
Well, well, Kate, I don't want you to sort of take on the role that I did in marriage with your father, being very submissive, not sort of being yourself. And when I see that your partner David is trying to dominate you, in certain ways that are familiar to me. I want you to be aware of it, but yet perhaps you are. But I just feel I want to come in there and more or less interfere, which I know that you really are not welcoming me to do. But I just want to save you a lot of sort of pain and hassles, sort of, because you're about the same age as I was when it all happened. And I see you being submissive, you know, when you know, you really aren't, because you're a very lively, sort of witty person. But you're sitting there being so unspontaneous and bored, and you're still young.
Do you think you could say that to her?
No.
What would stop you?
She will just cut me off. She doesn't want to know.
And that's a big fear for you?
Yeah.
Her cutting you off?
Yeah.
Because that will bring back those other feelings.
Yeah, because she can be very sharp and sarcastic and sort of cutting as well. And I've attempted it, you know, to talk about it, and she's just said, "Oh, it's all in the past, you know, I don't want to know." And I believe she really doesn't want to know. They're young people, you know, they've got their life ahead of them, and they don't want to keep looking in the past. But I'm sure she is the one that's damaged by it, and not my son.
What makes you say that?
Just the way she sort of sometimes reacts towards me, you know. Maybe I'm coming over too strong, you know, with my sort of show of love and attention, and maybe she's trying, this is all my supposition, right, that she's trying to emerge as her own person. And there's mother there, you know, sort of in the background, rather sort of maybe trying to dominate as well. I don't know. I'll keep proving myself, you know. Because I know that when I left, she was very, very hurt by it. No matter how often I tried to explain, I was very honest and tried to explain things. It was just the question, why don't you come back, Mother? And when the child is 8 years old, how do you explain that?
And you didn't explain, did you?
Well, I did in a way which I thought maybe a child would understand, like, you know, it's not you that I don't love, it's your father, and that sort of thing. But, I mean, the fact is that I wasn't there, you know, and she had a troubled teenage period, and she did say that she missed her mother there for her. She had a stepmother, but the stepmother's totally different type of person from me. Wasn't really interested in children, but a very nice friend. But she missed, I think, having the closeness of a mother to support her. Because no matter how much I tried, I was living in Holland, so it just wasn't, I wasn't there for her.
I'm hearing this guilt. I'm also hearing a lack of forgiveness for yourself. Does that fit?
Yeah.
I think you're being very irrational about the reason for your leaving. I'm outside, and it sounds to me as if you didn't have a choice to stay, is what I'm hearing. Can I just check that out with you?
Well, I did. I mean, we all have our choices, and it still puzzles me why I took that choice.
If it was a violent relationship, did you have a choice?
Yeah, but then I shouldn't have left my children, should I, in the violent relationship? But he wasn't violent towards the children. That's absolutely clear, because he loved the children very much. He did use the children as a tool against me, like, if you go, I'll make sure you don't get them. Right. So I mean, and he was quite a powerful person, financially and sort of professionally. And of course I was really scared, you know, because I'm talking now in the early 60s. So I was scared of him. I really was scared of him.
And everything that he threatened happened?
Well, it was sort of like a negotiation, sort of like, okay, if I let, well, what he said to me was, you go and sort yourself out, and then we'll discuss the custody of the children. So I went and sorted myself out, and then he sort of brought in a partner, provided a stable home, where I was just out there not knowing what was going on, and especially about myself, because I needed to work things out for myself. And of course, during the court case, he said, well, look, I'm providing a stable relationship for the children. She's gone off and done this, this, and this. And I just, again, was submissive and thought, well, okay, you know, the court will never believe me. But I have tried coming back for custody of the children. But you see, I was in Holland, you know, sort of not very stable life, and he was providing a good, stable life for them, which in my eyes was okay as well. But at the same time, he really did what he could to stop me from having this good relationship, playing sort of psychological games.
I'm hearing that you did the very best for your children. You're coming across to me as a very loving mother.
I feel that. I really do feel that.
Good. And that you actually left the violent relationship to enhance the children's upbringing, that it was better for them.
But to me, I find it's all rationalization, you know, to sort of excuse what I did. This is what I still have to deal with. I'm rationalizing, you know, glibly, words.
So the alternative to what you did would have been to do what?
To have taken them with me. He was quite wealthy, so in a way I could have had a, you know, quite a good life. But
and the reason for you not taking them with you?
Well, I felt that I was sort of in such turmoil that it wouldn't be nice for the children, because I didn't know who I was, what I was, where I wanted to go. I just didn't know. And I thought, if I'm going to take children away with me, now this was quite a rational thing, if I take them with me, it could be here, there, and everywhere, no stability, because I didn't want to stay in, you know, in the city that I was living in, because we were quite a well-known couple there, and it was all sort of blown up in our faces. And so I thought, it's better if they stayed, because actually my mother was also living in a granny flat in the house. So I thought, okay, my mother would be the stabilizing influence there when I wasn't around. But of course then it all changed, because all the promises he made he broke them, and my mother was kicked out and things like that. So, but I did feel that they would stand a better chance there with him.
Say that again.
They would stand a better chance there with him than with me dragging them around with maybe different men in my life, and I didn't want that for the children.
So the reason you did what you did was to make it better for the children?
Yes and no, because I still can't get over that I did actually leave them.
So you were only worth being there and being treated in a way that was abusive. You wouldn't have ended up probably the mother that you are now if you'd have stayed. Have you ever thought along those paths?
I have thought about that, you know, because I know that I learned the hard and the bitter way by being almost like an exile in Holland. Not being able to come back because of financial reasons, although many times I wanted to just come back, but I had no job or anything. And finally I have come back now, you see, because I can't afford it. So I feel as if I've come back from exile, trying to sort of make good what I made such mistakes before. But I learned the hard way in Holland what it was all about, being very lonely and alone, and being sort of criticized because of what I did. Because that's always very near the surface, you see, with people with children and how they've brought them up and talk about it. And I feel I can't talk about it.
You can't have an opinion because people will come back and say, what right have you to have an opinion when you left your children?
And this is what happened just last week when a close member of my family threw that in my face. Because I was discussing the children that he has, the problems and things like that. And he just turned around and said, what the, do you know about it when you went off? So it's still after 24 years in my face. So I'm very
You actually know more about it than the majority of other people as to how to bring children up, because you've had that incredible dilemma of actually you've put the children before yourself, and then you put yourself first for your own protection and for your own rights. People don't have a right to hurt you like that. it really does come across so strongly that I hate saying, you know, what you need to do is, but what you need to do is totally forgive yourself. And your children have probably done that. And until you forgive yourself, other people aren't. You know, and whoever this person was last week that's saying, what right do you have to have opinions when you did what you did? You know, you do have a right. You have a right to feel safe. You have a right to your opinions. You have a right to look after yourself. And in so doing, I can just hear so clearly the love of your children was paramount. It wasn't love of yourself. You were there 12.5 years. The love of your children were paramount. And I really believe that you need to let go of that before you can move on, Corinne. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, sort of rationally it does,
You know
but
that
emotionally it's still difficult.
Well, when the emotional brain takes over, the thinking brain like disappears. So emotionally, let's just celebrate now what you've got with these children. You're actually seeing them. They're now how old?
32 and 30.
Right. And tell me about the relationship with your son.
Well, that's a very loving, very accepting, especially from my son. And yet he was just 5 when I left, you know, which is also a painful thought for me to have done it.
I want you to say all that again and not add at the end, you know, that going back.
Right.
All right? I want you to live in the present and live in the now, not in the then and was.
Okay.
All right.
Right. No, he's extremely loving and accepting and forgiving and very, very affectionate.
Right.
And we have a wonderful relationship, which is a lot of fun, sense of humor, and that's really lovely. And I get on very well with his wife too. So the three of us together do lots of things, and we're all very happy about it.
Gosh, that sounds
that's
so
really
idyllic.
lovely.
People who haven't split up haven't got that. Lots of people who've stayed, you know, married all their lives haven't actually got that relationship. That sounds really lovely. And it's not just with him, it's also with his wife.
Yes.
So you've been totally involved with that.
Yeah.
Right. Now tell me the positive side of your relationship with your daughter.
Well, we're sort of reasonably loving and close, because she is affectionate towards me too. But that's only when she and I are together without the partner.
Okay, so when we're together, it's loving and it's positive.
Yeah. She's almost back like the lovely little girl that she was together with me, you know. But when she's with the partner or he's in the area, then she's a little bit sort of distant.
As you said, she may just be picking up your resentment towards...
Probably.
Towards a future husband, future partner. But also you are projecting stuff onto him from your husband, your ex-husband.
Yeah.
All right. So from now on, what do you think you could do?
Well, I want to carry on sort of being more sort of, well, the way I am doing now, because, you know, I have come back really just this last year to be closer to them, because I could financially afford it, which I couldn't before. But just carry on the way I have been doing in this last year.
And celebrating what you have.
Yeah. And I'm going to be a grandmother for my son, so that's going to be even more of a positive thing. So I shall make sure I'm there much more than happy.
And I can hear you saying I'm going to be the best grandmother in the world. If I wasn't the best mother, I'm going to be the best grandmother.
I think I've been given a second chance to try again.
Right. But I would like to remind you to forgive yourself and to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, then other people aren't going to love you. And that may sound very selfish. It's not about being selfish, it's about feeling, you know, a sense of self-love, and to stop that negativity of, you know, what you did and how wrong I was. But how wonderful a person I've now turned out. You must be 10 times the person for having gone through all that. And, you know, with work that you're doing and with other people. You must be so much richer for that.
I feel I have, but at the expense of my children. But this, I realise, you know, what you're saying, that I'm trying to give back something that I wasn't able to before.
Perhaps it's not at the expense of your children. Perhaps that is something you might think about for the future. You've got it with your son. This is an area that you might need to learn to talk in that lovely, open, honest way perhaps with your daughter, what you may find is that they're absolutely fine. You know, mother, it's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, we're okay.
I'm suspecting that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sort of loading a load of stuff onto them that's not theirs, that's yours.
Mm.
So, you know, you can dump your own garbage.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
My heart's going out to you, and it must have been and is sometimes very awful. But please look at that, you know, the celebrating that it's just so perfect now. Probably 400 times better than many people who stayed together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that.
Right. Lovely, lovely working with you.
Thank you.
Colleen, you've just had the counselling interview with Jean. Can you tell me what you felt about that?
Well, I felt very sort of safe, you know, from almost the beginning, which made me feel I could open up and be very honest about myself, how I looked at myself and the situation. And I feel sort of quite at peace now, especially with the way Jean sort of handled my situation.
Did you feel judged at all?
No, I didn't. Not at all. Not for one bit. I felt she was right there with me.
And how about the feelings of clarifying the situation for you?
Well, she didn't really clarify it because I had clarified it myself, but it was sort of like supportive, reassuring, and sort of just making me sort of feel, you know, that you're okay about things, which I tend, you know, in my negative moments to sort of beat myself up about. But she has reassured me, you know, about my sort of, my hardness on myself, and I should be more forgiving.
What about finally the aspect of in counselling at the end of the session you may go on to do something else, or it leaves you with some ideas? Did you have, or have you any ideas of what you might do next?
Yes, what came out quite clearly was the situation between my daughter and myself. That has been a worrying factor for me. But with Jean saying, you know, sort of be aware that you're not dumping your past sort of experiences, you know, putting it on your daughter when maybe it isn't there, which is a very good point which I shall keep in mind, because I think I am guilty of doing that. So.
Okay, Colleen, thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.
The approach that I was using at the beginning of the counselling interview was one of Rogerian basic skills. I stayed with the story that she wanted to tell. I was aware that there were different issues going on. I just let her talk through those. Did you feel her pain? Did you empathise with her? As she talked, I became very aware of Ellis's work on rational emotive therapy. What I was actually hearing from Colleen was one of the irrational emotive ideas that so many of us carry, and that can create tremendous mental anxiety. And the one which I was hearing was one of wickedness. I am a wicked person and I need to be punished. That needs to be dropped. Her reasoning for feeling and thinking the way that she now does is so dependent on a lot of society's rules. The one she mentioned about, you know, the mother doesn't leave her child. The fact that the father had custody. Society's rules that mother stays with the children and father moves out and earns the money. She was very, very hurt by people not allowing her to have an opinion on child rearing. Do you remember? How can you make such comments when you've done what you've done? Tremendous condemnation. You heard the guilt. You heard the feeling of, I really ought to be punished. The sad story that's happening for so many people these days of, my ex-husband wouldn't come to the wedding because I was going. How many times do you come across that? How many times with extended families do you have to deal with such issues? Did you hear a projection of her ex-husband onto her future possible son-in-law? Desperately wanted to protect her daughter from going through what she went through. I was delighted when she celebrated. I was delighted when she could see some way forward. I desperately wanted to use that word normal. I wanted to say, but it's so normal not to like your daughter's boyfriend. But it's so normal that at times there are arguments. I did think she celebrated the excellent, warm, loving relationship she has with her son. I wonder how many people that have stayed with their partners for decades would have what she has now. I wish her all the luck in the world, and I'm sure she'll get there. Hello, Fedora.
Hi, Jean.
Nice to see you.
And you.
All right. So what would you like to work on today?
Well, I've decided that perhaps we should explore my childhood because I haven't done a lot of exploration there, if that's okay with you.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. But it does mean to say I'm going to remember all.
So we'll have to find some way of you remembering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Where would you like me to start? At when I was very young or teenage years?
No, I think I'll take you on a journey which will help you to remember.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
How will you be all right? I'd like you to lie on the floor.
That's okay.
Okay. So if you'd like to lie down there, if you could put your head at that end and your feet at this end.
Okay.
All right. Brilliant. All right, that's smashing. All right. So we're going to just close your eyes now. What I'm going to do is take you on a train journey, and this will help just slot into different times in your childhood.
Okay.
And we'll see we'll work on what emerges from that.
Okay.
All right. So just close your eyes. I'm not going to do anything awful. Just tighten your feet up. Just tighten up your feet, and let them relax. And tighten up all the muscles in your leg. And let them relax. Okay, tighten up all your tummy muscles and all your bottom muscles and really tighten that trunk and let it relax and sink into the floor. And now I'd like you to either open your fingers very wide or clench your fists, whichever, but that's it, and tense all those finger muscles and take that tension up your arms. Brilliant, and into your shoulders, and relax so that they're nice and heavy. And now all the muscles around your chest and your shoulders, tighten those, tighten and relax. And tighten all your facial muscles and relax. Okay, I'd now like you to think about something that happened to you last week. All right, just visualize something that happened to you last week. I don't want you to tell me about it. Just think of a time last week. Someone you were talking with. What you might have been saying. Okay, and I'd now like you to go to some familiar railway station. And I want you to get on a train. And this train is actually going backwards into your life. And so it is now moving backwards to when you were 21. And as you're going backwards on the train, it's slowing down at the station. And there's a big sign on the station saying you're 21. I'd like you to get off the train. I want you to feel 21 and think of somebody that you now know. Now that you're 21, think of someone that you now know. and you see them on the platform, and they'd like you to talk to them.
Hi, Dave.
Well, we'll look at what you say later. That's absolutely brilliant, all right? So just think about it. Now come back on the train. And I now want you to realise that the train is pulling out of that station and it's going backwards in your life, backwards. And the train is now stopping, and this station has a big sign up saying 16. Fedora 16. Get off the train and go to somewhere where you were living when you were 16. Go to somewhere where you were living. And see the different rooms, the different places. The people with whom you're living, your friends, your family. There may be sounds, smells, tastes, and feelings. And now come back onto the train, and the train is now going back again into your life, and the train is slowing down and it's stopping, and the platform now says Fedora 11 years old. And now get off the train and go to your school. You're 11 years old, go to your school. Who can you see there? Where are you? Just think about
I'm in front of the teacher at this minute.
Okay, well just think about what's happening and just visualise it, and then we'll look at it afterwards when you come back and sit on the chair. All right, does that feel positive? Don't answer me. Does that feel good, or is it feeling negative, or who's around you? Just remember, just recall. And come back on the train, back, further back into your life. And you're 7 years old now as you approach the station. You're now 7 years old, Fedora. You're getting off the train and you're going to where you live. What memories are there? What's happening for you now that you're 7? Just think about them, recall them. And I'd like you to find your bedroom. Go into your bedroom. Think about what you can see in your bedroom. And I'd like you to choose a piece of furniture that's in your bedroom. Choose a piece of furniture. And can you now become that piece of furniture? Do you want to change your body so that you become that piece of furniture? Is it possible? Or can you recognise that you're now that piece of furniture? And as a piece of furniture, you're looking at Fedora. You're watching her. Wonder what she's doing. What do you see? What do you see Fedora doing? What is she thinking? Is she happy? Is she frightened? What does she want to be when she's a big grown-up girl? Who does she like playing with? Who loves her? Who scares her? And now come back from that bedroom, back from the house to the station, back on the train, and the train is now going backwards, backwards. And as it pulls in, there's a sign saying Fedora, 3 years old. Who's waiting for you at the station? You're 3 years old now. Who's there? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Are there any smells around? Any tastes in your mouth? What can you see? And now back on the train, you might have to be lifted on because you're not a very big girl. You need to be lifted on because it's a very, very high, steep step. You're back on the train now, which goes back in your life to your very, very earliest memory. Whatever age that might be, your earliest memory. As the train stops, you recall that very early first memory. Okay. Right, I'm going to bring you back from that early memory. I'm going to bring you back on the train that's now going to go forwards. And as the train comes forward, the positive things I'd like you to bring back with you. And the negative things I'd like you to leave behind. I'd like you to drop the garbage, dump the rubbish, dump any negative experiences, voices, or people, negative scripts that were said to you or you picked up. So you're now 3, stopping at the station. What positive things do you want to bring with you from there? What do you want to dump? And now the train's moving forward and you're 7 years old. What do you want to bring with you? And what do you want to leave behind? The train is now going forward and you're 11 years old. Recalling those memories, experiences. What good things, what can you celebrate to bring with you from being 11? And what do you want to leave behind? Now you're 16. Bring the positive things with you. And drop the things that are getting in the way of you moving on. Train's moving forward and you're 21. And again, bring with you what's useful and energizing and helpful, and leave behind the contaminating and negatives. And now the train is reaching the final platform, and it's now today, and you're with the person that you thought about earlier on, the person from last week. Now be aware of your body on the carpet. And if you can just pull your knees up, just give yourself a little cuddle. Pull both your knees up, right, and just give yourself a little cuddle. Okay. And then when you're ready, I'd like you to slowly come and sit back on this chair. Well done. Right.
Oh.
Lots of different memories. Okay, we'd like to start when you tell me about your earliest memories.
I think that got lost along the way somehow. The earliest one I remember is the measles and the mumps. I remember those. And what my gran said when I had the mumps and what she did. All I could remember was this hot towel under my chin, tied above my head. It says, that will make the swelling goes down. There's not a great deal I can do about it, so nature will have to take its course. So she put this hot towel under my chin, tied it up there. And then after a couple of days it seems easier. I didn't feel so heavy and swollen.
Right.
I remember that.
Was it your face that was swollen, or teeth, or?
Face under here,
Right.
and right up to the ears, and uncomfortable. I remember that. I was very excited, that bit.
And what about when you were 3?
There are all sorts of memories at 3. Mostly it's my grandfather, because he seemed to be and whenever I think about him I want to cry, because he was my world.
Stay with him now. It's okay to cry.
He was a person that shaped me. Although my grandmother was there, I realised when growing up that we were too much alike to be friends. But Granddad was Mum, Dad, sister, brother, uncle, all roll into one. That was my grandfather.
He sounds very special.
He was. He was very special to me. So at 3, he was the one who hugged me when I'm hurting. The one who said, never mind, it'll be all right. So I always have that comfort. Because at 3, Father was travelling and he worked all over the world. He'd go where the job was. I never had much contact with him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know my mother. I think what my gran said was she decided that she couldn't take care of me because she had other children to look after. So I was left with grandparents, which these things seem to happen at that time and in Jamaica, you know. Parents can't manage, they give them to the grandparents and grandparents take on the responsibility, which I was lucky because I had granddad and I had a grandmother. So my earliest memory at 3 there is my granddad hugging me whenever I hurt. And looking back on it, I would have thought it would have been grandmother who does that.
Mm.
But no, it was always granddad.
Mm. And he was the one that expressed his love for you.
Yes. Yes, he was always the one who hugs and says, don't mind, you've got me.
Mm. And that made you feel special?
Yes, rather special.
Okay, any other memories around then, or can we move on?
No, not around that 3.
Right.
Not 3.
So you bringing Grandad with you?
Yes, he'll be travelling with me for a while. Yeah.
You bringing Grandma with you?
She can come too.
Okay.
She can come too.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And now you're 7 years old, what are your memories now?
The memories at 7 was having to go to school, which I didn't like. I start school early. No, that's not true. I should have started school early, but because I was poorly, I suffer with asthma, I wasn't able to start my school until I was 7, where other children start at 5. I started at 7. So I didn't like it. I didn't like school because I had to leave Grandad. And I didn't like the uniform to start with. I'd always thought it was awful. And Grandma always says you have to wear it because that's the rules. I don't think I was keen on rules at 7, or any time for that matter. But whenever I didn't want to do anything, and Gran said you have to, there was always Grandad in the background. So I always thought, right, I'll not do it for you, but I'll do it for my Grandad. So 7 wasn't all that exciting time because I didn't like school much, but I know I had to go.
When were exciting times?
Oh, whenever Grandad decided you're not going to school today. I don't know if I perhaps did, you know, said I was poorly or just to get out of it. I know my children does that.
And now you're moving on and you're 11. What was going on for you? What's going on for you now that you're 11?
Oh, 11 was wonderful. I used to be able to go anywhere. Mind you, always get spanked for it. I remember it was just after my 11th birthday and we've got this dog and we call it Castro, big ugly thing. And it was sort of mine. It's wherever I go, it came too. And I decided that, right, I need an adventure today. Grandma had told me to do something, of course, wash the pots, you know, do the washing and whatever else a girl have to do. I wasn't keen, so I decided, right, I'm not doing it. I know I might suffer later, but I'm not doing it. So I took this dog and, well, I didn't take him, he took me. And we crossed this field and it was the most beautiful field you've ever seen. It's got orange trees, it's got pineapple, it's got everything. It was so marvellous. It was great big hills and greenery. And I decided, right, that's where I want to be today. We're going over there. Well, the dog took me, as I said. He went and I followed. And we seemed to walk for miles and miles and miles. And when I got hungry, I ate an orange. Went out to have, had an orange. And then I just lie down and went to sleep. And I woke up and it was evening time. Oh dear.
And the dog was still there?
The dog was still there right beside me, and decided that, I think it was the dog that woke me up, decided that we had better go home. And we went home. And Gran wasn't very Gran wasn't very pleased, so I got a good spanking for disobeying. I thought it was worth it.
Sounds a pretty good adventure to me.
It was a beautiful adventure. I couldn't resist it. It was just there.
And then moving on to your being 16.
16.
What's happening to you now?
Gran had decided that it's time I come and see my father. But in the meantime, Grandad had taken ill. And that was a sad time. I lost Grandad then. Before that, I looked after him for about 6 months before he died. And after the funeral, about 2 months, I had to come to England. Didn't want to, but my gran decided that she was getting too old to look after a teenage girl. So it's time Dad takes some responsibility. In the meantime, he had married and had two children over here. And I wasn't ready for that kind of adventure. But I know Gran was right. She was too old for me. But still, I didn't want to leave Grandad. Although he died, he was still there. Didn't realise that I could bring him with me.
Do you realise now?
Oh yes. Yes. But I went through all of that teenage year without him until 2 years ago. I realised he was still with me. But being 16 wasn't, I don't think it was a very happy time for me. There was too much. Too much to take in, too much to learn, different society. But all of that.
So that was a really sad time.
Yes.
But you brought Grandad with you on this train when you were 3, and you're certainly bringing him when you're 16.
Yes, I found him again.
And you found your dad.
Yes, I found Dad.
And you're now 21.
Yeah. Finding Dad wasn't...
Do you want to stay with Grandad? Do you want to stay with Grandad a bit longer?
I stay with Grandad. I stay with him. Can I tell you some of the things we did together?
Of course.
My Grandad had a big piece of land and he farmed it. Not animal farms, but food, vegetables. And every so often he says, right, we're going for a walk. And I always ask question, where are we going today, Grandad? And he'd say, where would you like to go? Well, I'd say, well, anywhere that's pretty. I says, how about if we go to the gardens today? I said, that would be fun. We always travel and we always walk. We're all about 3 miles, so we walk. So the exercise is good for you. And he always take me to the garden, and it'd always be weeding taking up all the weeds, and he'll be saying, this is the weed, this is the plant. If you don't get the weed out, the plant will die. And he always tell me what they are. Now this is peanuts, this is potatoes, this is corn growing, so watch the weeds. And he always, whenever he's doing something, he's explained to me what he's doing. He's trying to tell me also how things grow. You plant it, you look after it, and water it when it doesn't get enough water from the earth. Or when the rain comes, and then they grow. And I always remember the things that he taught me. And whenever we're travelling as well, he's telling me about nature. If I hear something and didn't understand what it was, he'll explain to me what it was. And he always explained to me about the flowers. Big trees, they're in blossom. The trees is for sheltering. It's got shade. It's for us to shelter under. Always look after the trees.
And you're still doing that now?
I still do. I try to pass that on to my grandson. He's only 3.
So you're the granddad in disguise.
Yeah.
The granddad in drag.
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
They sound very beautiful, very loving memories.
It is. It took me some years to remember, or to recall them, because I'd buried them once I came here. He wasn't with me anymore.
But now, as you say, 2 years ago, you suddenly realised, he's still with you.
He's still with me.
He always will be.
Yes, yes.
And in terms of 21, what's
21?
now for you?
21 I always thought was exciting. He was growing up and you're courting, and mind you, 21 was hell too. Yeah. When my 21 birthday came, I never celebrated it. And to this day, I don't understand why. Well, see, my children celebrated their 21st and had a good old knees up, but I never did. I think really round that he wasn't there to celebrate my reaching that age. My granddad wasn't there. And he should have been. So 21 wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Yeah.
And what about now?
I tell you when was exciting.
When?
My 50th.
What was exciting about that?
I've reached my half century and I've grown.
And you're a grandmother?
Yes, I've got 2 grandchildren, 3 sons. It was as if I was looking at life anew, afresh. It seems so exciting to reach that stage of my life. You know? Mind you, I had a miserable day.
For what reason?
Well, my husband decided to give me a surprise party. A very, very surprise party. Only nobody phoned up to say, happy birthday.
So you had this miserable day all day because no one had bothered to say anything.
Exactly.
And there they all were at night.
Yes, yes. And I'm sitting there saying, well, somebody could at least have phoned and wished me happy birthday. I mean, if it was their birthday, I would have. And then, round about 6 o'clock, my eldest son came and he says, Mum, we're going out for a meal. I says, OK, at least you remember my birthday.
And then you had this wonderful evening.
And I had this wonderful evening. It was great. All I did was cry my eyes out. There were so many people.
As you were going back on the train, I asked you to do different things.
Yes.
Can you remember when I asked you to go into your bedroom?
Yes,
What
at the
furniture did you become?
yeah. I look at the furniture and I thought, well, I didn't want to be a chair.
What did you choose?
At the bed.
And you looked at Fedora.
Yeah.
And what sort of little girl did you see?
Just a person who's not quite sure what she's going to do, what she wants to be.
Right. But a happy little girl.
Yes.
So, coming right through that train journey, what are the wonderful things that you've brought with you now that you're half a century old?
I like
young?
that. I like old will do.
Right. So what have you brought from that childhood and from your life?
I brought the extra memories of my family. My family's around me. Even those I didn't like very much. They were there, they were mine. And they've helped to shape my life. So I really can't discard them. Much I'd like to sometime.
So you can actually celebrate that?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a wonderful journey. I've never looked at it like that.
You've enjoyed the journey?
Yes. It's been wonderful.
Well, shall we finish there?
Yes.
Good.
Please.
It was lovely having the journey with you.
Thank you.
Okay, Fedora, you did the counselling session with Jeanie. Can you tell me what worked for you, how you felt about it?
I think it's the way Jeanie helps me to remember what I want to talk about. If we hadn't have done that, I don't think I'd got so much out of it. It's been an experience. It's not something I've done before. So it was new and exciting.
What did it feel like when you were actually on the train journey going back? What was the feeling that you had then? Because that was different for you.
It was as if I have to go back and look at where I was. See how I started out. And that was, how do you say? It was quite strange. It's like reading a diary of what you've wrote about your life, but experiencing it again.
That feels a wonderful description. That's sort of like a diary that you can experience rather than just write or read in that way.
It was.
Is there anything else that you felt about that trip or that you carry with you now from doing that work?
That trip has shown me how much I've grown since I left Jamaica to come here to be with my father and stepmother. And it showed me a happy childhood, which I didn't think I had somehow.
Right.
I think it was because of the circumstances and burying that person that I love so much. I didn't think my childhood was very happy after he went. But going back on that journey has opened it up again for me and shown me that yes, you had a happy childhood. Although at some point there was unhappiness, but you overcome that and you carry on and work at it and grow because you had that anchoring from that person, from my grandfather. He really anchored me. Yeah.
That feels wonderful. On that note of celebration and anchoring, can we leave it?
Yes, of course.
Thanks, Fedora.
Yeah. Thank you.
Having seen that interview with Fedora, what I was using was psychodrama. I use that train experience because it does highlight different parts of a young person's life that are fairly significant, you know, in their growing up. It will open doors to memories that have often been closed. It looks very easy, but in actual fact it can be very, very powerful. You also have to be a little careful when you're using it and be prepared to kind of stop the journey if you find that they're getting upset. It can also unlock some nasty memories and painful memories. You need to be skilled in being able to deal with those. it's easy, as you know probably, it's easy to let worms leap out of cans, but it's what you do with those worms when they've leapt out that's really important. So use it carefully. The way of going back, stopping at stations and starting with a near-day experience last week or a month ago, takes them gently back into the childhood. And also when they get off at different stations, you can use different things at different times. For instance, the schooling's an important one, usually around the 16 or the 11 one. You can also use the house. When I worked with her on the house and I asked her to be a particular kind of a piece of furniture, speaking to her later, she'd actually chosen to be the bed. When I hear people choose the bed, I have real signals of sometimes abuse. So, do be aware of that. They become the bed and they look then at the 7-year-old, as it was in Fedora's case. And it's then how the person, the client, will then see themselves, whether they were a happy child or a sad child or abused child or frightened. For her it was, of course, didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up. But it became more and more obvious as we went through the journey that her childhood had been happy. There was particular happiness with her granddad. I mean, her face was an absolute delight with that. And of course there were the tears with her granddad dying. And that also coupled with the fact that she then had to come over or go over to England. You must be aware as a counsellor that you'll be dealing with people from different cultures. They'll have different values, they'll have different belief systems. So remembering that basic Rogerian, non-judgmental, positive regard is really vital. And so what you're simply doing is opening doors so that the person can tell you about their cultures, their way of life. So for some of you, you may have been a little surprised that mothers just handed over their babies to grandmas. And of course this is perfectly and acceptable, as everything that people might say is acceptable, because you're not there to judge. Hello, Justin.
Hi.
Lovely to meet you. All right, so what issues would you like to work on with me today?
I'd like to address something to do with my mother-in-law. It's quite problematic in my life at the moment, so if we could talk about that, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Would you like me to just begin?
Yeah.
My mother-in-law is coming to Sheffield on Saturday. She's coming to stay with us for the first time in 8 years. And why it's problematic is because I'm in a relationship with her daughter and she doesn't approve of this. It's been very difficult for us over the last 8 years to manage this in any way. And we're now faced with a very big move by her, very brave move, which I appreciate, is that she's coming to Sheffield and she's going to actually stay in our house, which she's refused to do many times. So it's a big breakthrough, and I'm pleased that it's happening, but I'm very mixed about it. I've got mixed emotions about it.
And the emotions are?
I think probably trying not to, I don't know, I don't want to be in control, in charge of anything, but I do, because I feel like she's taken that away from me for many years, and in some respects this is my home now, and I can do as I please, and I have the right to be treated in a certain way, and if I don't like it, then I also have the right to say I don't like that, and I'm concerned that she's going to be really awful to me, and I'm going to be, I don't know, I'm going to say what I've got to say.
So you're going down this thought process of it's going to be awful, and control's going to be taken away, and you're going to want to say what you want to say, and it's your home, and so you're already anticipating it's
going to be really bad.
The negative bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Just tell me all that again, and tell me it from a positive viewpoint. Because you did mention a couple of positives. Just say that whole thing again and
Okay.
talk in terms of the positive aspect of what's going to happen this weekend.
Okay, that Barbara's going to come to our house on Saturday because she wants to. And it's a really big move for her. And I appreciate that. It's a really big move for her. And I'm really pleased that she can make that move for herself and for us. And that it's going to be okay. I hope it's going to be okay. That's all I can say is I hope it's going to be okay.
Right. Does that feel any different talking in those terms?
It does, yeah. I think I'm probably laughing because I don't know if I actually believe what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you're actually saying it.
Yeah, I'm saying it, but...
Right. 8 years you've been together as a couple.
Yeah.
And it's the first time. And there's kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
Loss of control, I heard you say.
Yeah.
But now there's also that kind of pleasure that this is kind of acceptance. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you met her before, even though she hasn't been to your home?
Yeah, I've known her for 20 years.
Oh, you knew her well before because you were friends with your partner.
We were friends. We were school friends.
Right. And got on with Barbara.
I got on with her
Your
very, very,
mother-in-law.
very well. Yeah, she was very close to me. Yeah.
So what's the real issue for you?
I think the real issue for me is that she liked me and respected me for 11 years as her daughter's friend and as her friend, because I became her friend when her daughter left and went to university, and then I got into a relationship with her daughter, and she I think she cut me out of her life, really. So.
And what was that about? For her, do you think?
Lots of things, really. I think, her dreams had been shattered, and for her, some of the big issues with that, her daughter was never going to be married, and it's her only daughter. Her issues are that she's not going to have grandchildren, and loss, real loss. I think betrayal, because I was her friend and her daughter's friend.
And you're the baddie, you're the one that's taking all these things away
Oh
from
yeah,
her.
there had to be someone to blame.
You say that she's her only daughter. Does she have a son? Or
She
is
has
she
two sons.
Oh, so she's the only daughter. She
Yeah,
has two sons.
yeah.
Okay.
She's
So
the
she
eldest.
still has
yeah.
she still has the possibility of being a grandmother, doesn't she? She's
She
got two
does,
sons.
yeah. I mean, she is a grandmother at the moment. One of her youngest sons has just had a child. She's very pleased about and extremely besotted about. I think another issue, a side issue from that, is that I have a son. He's 11. He's known my partner all of his life, because obviously she was my best friend, so she was at the birth. And we kind of got together when he was about 2.5. And she's made a really good job of parenting him and bringing him up and considers him to be her own. Yet, in her mother's eyes, he's mine. And yes, I mean, he is, but in her mother's eyes, the kind of the family issue, i.e. us having a child, is it's not up for discussion, it's not negotiable. So when we go to their house, there are no photographs of us in their house, or of our child, and that's really hard to deal with.
It's like you don't exist.
Yeah,
No
very
photograph.
much we don't exist.
And what about your son? I mean, how's your son in all this? He's quite happy with you. Can you give your partner a name? You keep saying-
Andrea, her name's Andrea.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
So your son's name?
Luke.
Okay. And Luke lives with the two of you
Yeah.
and enjoys both of you.
Yeah,
And whilst genetically you are the mother,
yeah,
as you say, Andrea is actually doing a good parenting job.
Yeah.
So all that's feeling secure. And
Mhm.
so is it just the mother-in-law that's the issue? Or are there other issues around the setting for you?
There probably are other issues. You know, I think that Andrea's relationship with her mother is difficult sometimes, because I often feel as a partner that her mother's behaviour is excused, if not protected and allowed. You know, and I know that it's really difficult for Ange to try and work with any of that. I really do understand that, and I think that because I understand that, I've been extremely supportive and patient for the last 8 years. And there are some times that I feel it's so hurtful and unmanageable for me that I need support sometimes with that.
Right.
And I ask for it, you know. I have no problem in asking for it, but sometimes the issue is when I then see them together, there's very much an act going on, and this is going to happen on Saturday, and I know that I know that is going to happen. Experience tells me that that's going to happen, because it's the only way that Andrea can deal with her issues, and I accept that. But it's very difficult when somebody's acting and I'm trying to be. I'm just trying to be myself, really. I don't like to act.
All right. Would you like to try something out with me?
I would.
All right. It's going to sound strange when I ask you to do this. I'm going to give you a piece of paper.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm going to ask you to write something.
Okay.
Right. There we are. Okay. Right. I'd like you to write, once upon a time, there was a little rabbit. Full stop. One morning, Rabbit woke up and decided to go for an adventure. And so, okay, finish that story. Give you about 3 or 4 minutes. Just, you know, just write.
Just write anything?
Don't censor it, just let it just flow. think about bringing it to a sort of an end, a conclusion. More paper, just use some more sheets.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Keep your paper. I'll take the pen off. All right. Let's see what happens. I'd like you to read the story.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that the rabbit is you. This is about symbolism and this is about advanced counselling. So read the story, please.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a little rabbit. One morning, Rabbit woke up and decided to go for an adventure. So he could be happy, truly happy. He was amazed at how beautiful everything looked, and he wondered if he was dreaming. He rubbed his eyes and pinched his skin, or his fur, and realised he was really awake. As he smelt the air and the dew of the morning, he looked around until he saw flowers and dewdrops, his own breath, trees, and he heard birds singing joyfully, happily, and he realised he really was happy after all. He no longer needed to look around for something that was lost, as it was with him all along.
Ah. What does that say to you?
I think it kind of tells me that I don't really need to worry because I'm actually quite safe with the things that I've got.
Mm. And in symbolism terms, who do you think the birds are?
I think they're me and my family.
Mm. And it's a lovely day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gloomy or rainy or snowy, or it's warm.
Mm-hmm.
And you said happy, truly happy.
Mm-hmm.
So the recognition in that for you is, you know, you're there. How does that feel?
I mean, it feels really good. I mean, I think it just really affirms what I already knew.
Okay.
So
Right. Let's try something else. Just relax and close your eyes.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to take on a little fantasy. Okay. I want you to go back to when you were small, and I want you to visualize a street or a road or a lane, depending on what kind of area you lived. And I want you to visualize yourself walking down that road. And of course it's changed a lot now from when you were small. On the right hand side are some shops. Can you see the shops?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I want you to go into the first shop, and it's a bakery shop. Can you smell all the beautiful baking bread and okay. And come out of that shop now and walk down the road, the street, and there's a very strange shop now. It's a kind of magical shop. It looks a little bit weird and perhaps a little bit eerie. And standing outside the shop is a hooded figure. Walk up to the hooded figure. Okay. And I now want you to say something to the hooded figure. And now go into the shop. And as you go into it, you're told by the assistant, this is a shop where you can get anything in the world that you want, and it's actually a magic shop. And if you go through this door at the back of the shop, you will see everything there in the world that you would want, including things that haven't even really yet even been invented. I want you now to choose whatever you want in the world from this magic shop. Anything at all in the world that you'd like. Have you chosen something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now start to come out of the shop. But just as you're going out through the door, the assistant says, "Could you stop, please? You've now got this thing that you want, but in return, you have to now give me something that's very precious to you." Okay. And now come back out of the shop. Back up the street, past the baker's. And now be aware of sitting in that seat. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Open your eyes. Tell me what happened when you walked down this street. What did you see?
I just saw where I used to live.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the shops, and there was nobody about. It was empty.
Empty.
The street was empty.
Mm-hmm.
There were usually cars,
Mm-hmm.
kind of traffic going up. There was no traffic.
So it's empty.
Yeah.
And in the baker's?
Yeah, I mean, I actually visualised the row of shops, and you said the first shop, and the first shop was actually a butcher's to me, because that's what it really, truly was. And I'd gone in and I'd seen the butcher, and I had to come out and go a little bit further up to go into the baker's. So I went in, yeah, and I remember kind of, I was there to pick up my nan's Danish loaf, because I always had to do that from school. So, yeah, I was quite young.
Mm-hmm. Does that feel positive, picking up Nan's Danish loaf?
Oh yeah, because I was going to go home and have cheese sandwiches with it, so it was lovely.
Right. And then you saw the hooded figure. Tell me about that.
I felt really apprehensive about that. I couldn't see who they were. I don't think I wanted to.
Give me another word for apprehensive.
I was frightened.
You're frightened.
Yeah.
You didn't speak to the hooded figure then?
I was tempted to ask who they were, and I don't actually think the words came out.
Would you like to ask them now?
No.
Okay. And then you went into this magic shop. What did you choose?
I chose acceptance.
Acceptance from whom?
Everybody. It wasn't anyone specific. I mean,
Right.
it was en masse.
Right, so it's important for you to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you give in return when you came out?
I don't feel I actually gave them anything that I hadn't given before. So I was tempted to say, you know, you can have my soul for this, and then I thought, well, you've already had it, so you know, you can have it anyway. Well, what's left of it?
So who might you be giving this to then? Who might that represent? That you have to give something back?
I think it represents a lot of people. I think it represents Barbara. I think it represents probably my own mother.
Mm.
My family members.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, everybody really.
Is your mum still around?
She is.
Okay. And are you saying she's more accepting, or?
She is, yeah.
But Barbara's mother's Barbara
Is
less accepting.
Yeah.
Right. And any thoughts, other thoughts now on the hooded figure about the fear? or who might frighten you, what it might represent?
I don't know, I mean, I'm tempted to say that it's Barbara, but I don't know if it is.
It could be a lot of people.
Yeah,
A lot of people that have not accepted you.
probably, yeah.
Okay. So some of the stuff you were saying earlier then, Justine, about Barbara coming and kind of almost anticipating now, aren't you, that I'm not going to be accepted, I haven't been accepted, and it's going to be all awful. Now you're recognising that acceptance is really kind of a very important thing for you.
Yeah.
Right. Are there any particular people in your life who've not accepted you? Come to mind?
I think my extended family, really, is kind of my aunties and uncles.
Okay. Right. Shall we just do another one little thing?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah.
Okay, close your eyes. Going back onto that street and walking down, cross over the street, the road, and on the left hand side you see a large building that wasn't there when you were small. I want you to walk into this large building and walk down a corridor. And as you're walking down the corridor, you see paintings on the wall. Have a look at them. What sort of paintings are they? Just visualise them. There may be smells around, there may be even tastes in your mouth, there may be noises. Continue down the corridor, and then you think that you're coming to a dead end, but on the left hand side there is a door, and I'd like you to walk through that door. And as you open the door, you see an enormous room, and right in the middle of the room is a statue. You realise you're in some kind of art gallery. I want you to walk into the middle of the room and stand by the statue. Be aware of the colour of the statue and what it's about, what it's made of. And looking at the statue, I want you to ask it a question. Any question that comes to mind now. Ask it a question, not out loud to me, just ask the question. And now I'd like you to go inside the statue. Be aware of what it's like trying to get inside there, and you become the statue. You take on its form. And now as the statue, you're looking down at yourself, and I'd like you to answer the question that was asked of you. Now come outside the statue, and you can either bring it with you or you can leave it where it is. Come out of the room, back along the corridor, out into the road, the street. Make your way back down the street, and now become aware of sitting here and being in contact with the chair. And open your eyes. Okay. Tell me about your journey. Tell me about your pictures.
They were really happy faces, and they were almost kind of childlike, as if they'd been drawn by children. I was trying to think of of something that I really liked, a picture that I really liked, and it was really funny. I'd recently been to a Kandinsky exhibition in London, and I thought, and all I could see was a Lowry picture. So it was really reminiscent of childhood and children and happy things. So it made me feel quite secure walking down the corridor. Until I got to the end, and I thought I felt a bit apprehensive again. Until you said turn left, and I thought, okay, I'm going somewhere else. It's not the end. There was something more, so that was good. It was of intrigue, so I went in, and the big hall and the statue was quite dramatic actually, because it was just it was footsteps. It was a wooden floor. And the statue was really reminiscent of the Statue of Liberty, which is, I don't know how significant that is. Something that was just really huge, overwhelming, and big. So when I was asking a question, I had to shout it, so that I could be heard.
Huge, overwhelming and big.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the question that you shouted?
Why am I not good enough?
Wow. And then you got inside the Statue of Liberty type statue.
Yeah, it's a long way to climb.
Was it difficult to get in there, or easy? Or?
It was quite easy to walk in, but it was quite overwhelming, the size of it, and it was, you know, it was daunting really. But there was kind of an adrenaline rush to sort of climb up to the top of the stairs, to reach the top, to reach the kind of the head, the bit that I could answer the question from. But
and what did you reply?
You've always been good enough.
So why am I not good enough? You've always been good enough. Does that tell you anything?
Yeah, it tells me that I think it tells me that I accept me, you know, that I accept me, I'm okay. And I don't know, I'm a little bit confused as to whether or not that's enough. It feels like it is, but I don't know if it is.
So we're back on that acceptance road. Who else's acceptance do you want?
I want Barbara's acceptance. That's what I want.
Okay. And really this weekend's the first step to getting that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, I'd like you to say, I am good enough. I am accepted. I'd like you to say that to me.
I am accepted.
Louder.
I am accepted.
Right. And now I'd like you to look at that statue again, which is you. The statue is you. You know, like the rabbit. It's actually you you've been talking about. And the question you ask is the most important thing that's going on for you. And somewhere along the line, you've grown up with this, why am I not good enough? Or, can you recognise where that's come from?
Yeah.
From whom or from where?
Probably came from your nan.
Your nan?
Yeah.
When you were tiny? What would you have to do to be good enough for her?
Be a boy.
Be a boy?
Yeah.
Did Did she want you to be a boy?
I think she just made it really clear to me that kind of that, you know, I was a second class citizen in comparison to my brother.
So your brother was good enough, but
Yeah.
you weren't, because you weren't a boy.
Yeah.
And do you feel a second class citizen now?
Only when I'm within her company.
Right. So Nan's still around as well then?
Yeah.
Right. So you don't feel that when you're with your mother and when you're with your mother-in-law and when you're with colleagues and friends?
No.
So we've got just Nan. That's not too bad, is it, in the whole of the world? Just Nan.
Yeah.
And all these other people from whom you do have
Yeah.
acceptance and love.
Mm.
Okay. And do you love yourself? Because that searching for acceptance, if you get other people's acceptance, I mean, that's a wonderful bonus. But if you need their acceptance, Justine, before you approve of yourself, can you see that that's not on?
I do, I really do. And I really do believe that I do love myself.
Right, you do.
I do.
So I want you to say to me now, I love me.
I love me.
3 times.
I love me. I love me.
And I'm just hearing in brackets, but I'd also like Barbara to love me as well.
Yeah, it's very true.
Okay. So shall we sort of leave it there? Several words for me came out. Empty.
Mhm.
Emptiness is kind of important. Acceptance is obviously important for you. But also some kind of almost nemesis, some kind of turning point of recognising happiness like is there and that perhaps you've actually got it.
Mhm.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Does that sound... Can you register with any of that?
I
you
can. I
engage with
feel
some of
that. Yeah. Yeah.
And almost this weekend is going to be almost a turning point for even more acceptance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell me how you felt about doing Gestalt work, which is what you've just been doing?
I think I was really daunted by it at first. I was wondering, I don't know it so well. And I actually feel that was a bonus for me, not knowing it. So there were no hidden agendas. I couldn't play. And that itself felt really good. That I was just being pleasantly surprised as we went through it. And I was just totally being myself and thinking, this is really interesting. And always kind of feeling and sensing why we're going down this route. You know, I was really intrigued as to why we were taking certain paths.
Right, and so because it was so fresh for you, it was able to give you different avenues to explore.
Oh, totally, and I felt that because it was so fresh and so different than anything that I've done before, that I was being surprised all the time, which just made it go by really quickly, and it just felt really good, felt really enjoyable and safe.
And safe.
Yeah.
So what do you think you've learned? I'm just thinking about the rabbit and the Statue of Liberty. I mean, what kind of things have they told you about yourself?
I think how significant kinds of symbols are. The symbolism sort of work that we were centering on, the sort of the story, the rabbit, the vision, being me. Yeah, the Statue of Liberty kind of being me. And really that, I didn't really need to be afraid, you know. So, I don't know, the hooded figure kind of still intrigues me a little. But the other bits and the really happy kind of free-flowing movement in and out of the kind of meditation, sort of walking in and around school, the happy pictures, the things, the visual aspect of me that I very rarely tap into was really good.
Right, one last thing. In a sentence, could you sum up what it was like for you doing that?
I think I learned the significance and the importance of symbols in my life and words that I probably use that every day that I actually don't pay no attention to really, and how important they are to me. And I think I also that I have my visual creative kind of side is there that I didn't think, I don't know, that I really haven't tapped into. It's really difficult to explain because it is so visual, and you know, you kind of doing things, it's so different.
So welcome to your visual side.
Yeah,
your
my
creative
visual,
side.
yeah, totally different new side to me that I hadn't realised I had.
Great. Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Brenda.
Right, as you can see, I worked in different ways with Justine. I was actually using Gestalt approach, which some of you may be familiar with, and I used 3 different aspects of that. I used a rabbit story, and I used 2 fantasies story, one being the magic shop, and one being, if you like, the art gallery or the statue. That actually enabled me to reach the parts of the sort of therapists perhaps don't reach. When we actually worked on the rabbit story, it became obvious, as you saw from what she said, that she realised she was happy. So a lot of her concerns about Barbara visiting and actually gaining acceptance from her mother-in-law, as she referred to her, she then, with the rabbit story, lit up and said, you know, I realise I am happy after all. So that was useful. In the magic shop, of course, she wanted acceptance of all the things in the world that she could have. It was acceptance. So I was still getting this kind of incongruence between what was being said and perhaps what was being felt. The acceptance also goes along, or the wanting acceptance also goes along with aspects of rejection. She had been rejected by Granny, as you saw later in the interview. She'd also been rejected by Barbara, Barbara having been a close friend of hers when she was her mum's, her friend's mum. She was close. It was later that Barbara then rejected her. So there was that link between rejection and her desperately wanting acceptance. Of course, going into the actual art gallery and then finding childlike pictures and seeing the statue being the Statue of Liberty. I worked with her later when we talked in terms of the strength that means. And for her, it was about, you know, being strong and holding a light up and being seen by everybody. It's important when you use that, actually. You can perhaps use this little trick or way in of saying, I'm actually a Martian and I've never seen the Statue of Liberty. Can you explain? Can you tell me what the Statue of Liberty is about? And the words that they then use is actually about themselves. And she was talking about large, and she didn't actually use the word strong, but they are then actually talking about themselves, as in the case of the rabbit. That was really positive, and that was really good. However, we still had that hooded figure that she didn't really want to look at that. You know, there was still that kind of fear, underlying fear. And that may be the uncertainty about how people react. Because like other theories that you've actually seen, it's important to recognise that you will be dealing with people of a different sexual orientation from yourself. So it was very, very useful to allow her to go along the path that she wanted to go along, not the path that I thought she ought to go. Oughts or shoulds are out in terms of Gestalt therapy. The most important thing about her question was, why am I not good enough? I don't know what happened to you then, but you know, my heart kind of tugged at that one. And this had been something from her childhood, her not having been good enough. And as you saw later, this had come from Gran. You're not good enough. She really wanted a boy. That's pretty painful scripting that goes on and is often done. Often without malice, but can have a long-term effect, unless it's worked through. So you've seen 3 different types of Gestalt work. The rabbit, the magic shop, the statue. But do remember, these are not party games, because you're dealing with things on all different kinds of levels. Hello, Kate.
Well,
I'm Jean. And what would you like to talk to me about?
when my grandma died. It's my dad's mum.
When was that?
About 5-6 years ago now.
Can you tell me what happened?
I went to her house from school, and it was a residential home, and you go on buzzer and there were no answer in her room, but she wasn't outside either, and somebody who knew how I was let me in and told me that she'd gone to hospital because she'd come on from town carrying heavy things and it was hot. She collapsed outside the library, and an ambulance came and resuscitated her, and she was just in hospital for a few days. And she didn't come round or anything, and then she died. And my dad lived in Sheffield at the time, and he drove over every day to see her. But when she died, he drove slowly because he knew he'd be there all day, but because he drove slow, she died before he got there, so he didn't get to see her before she died. It was the first time I saw my dad cry too.
So your dad was really upset, I mean.
Yeah, because he picked some of her favourite flowers as well.
So you were crying for your dad as well as crying for you.
Yeah. And strange as well, because my mum was there and my dad's new wife were there as well, so there was like weird tension then as well.
Are you very close to Grandma? Do you call her Gran or?
Grandma.
You're very close to Grandma?
I was, but not really, really close. But I was the last person who spoke to her, because I spoke to her one morning telling her that I'd come from school to see her. And so it was just weird how I'd only spoke to her that morning. Then I'd like never speak to her again.
What were you saying to her?
And just telling her that I was going to come round from school and I was going to show her my certificate because I'd just passed my grade 1 on my cello. Because I'd just done my first grade on it. She was very happy for me.
So what sort of feelings have you got now?
I don't know. I don't know really, it's mixed up.
Right. So should we do some work on it?
Yeah.
All right. There's tissues there if you want to. But it's really, really good to cry. It's really good to cry.
I cry all the time.
Yes. Give me your tissue. I'll dump it for you. Right. Okay. What often happens when people die is a kind of numbness at first. You kind of can't understand sort of what's happening. But I suppose now there's a realisation, isn't it, that she's kind of.
So I'm just thinking, really, it's taken a long time.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you to talk to Grandma. All right. It might seem a bit funny what I'm doing, but I promise it. I'm hoping it'll help. Right. So I'd like you to talk to Grandma. Okay.
Just want to say that I miss you and I wish I could see you more and spend more time with you than I did. From when my mum and dad split up, I didn't see you much. I wish I'd come to see you more. So.
Can you tell of times that you remember that were lovely?
I used to go every week and get fish and chips, and we always used to walk to the fish shop together and tell you about things that I've been doing at school and all like ballet lessons and stuff. We used to talk all the time about just silly things. Just little minutes.
Can you tell her you love her?
I do love her.
I love you, Grandma, can you say?
I love you, Grandma. I've still got a bookmark that I bought you that had the puppies on, because you like puppies. I bought her a bookmark that said Grandma and had some puppies on it. I've still got that. And all the books that she had from Sunday school. Mel and my grandma were at Sunday school, and I've got them books in my room. Still gone. Can I get tissue, please? Thank you. Kept everything.
You still got those? They make you feel good when you look at them.
Yeah. From 1826.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a lovely memory. Come and sit over here.
Me say that.
Come and sit over here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, it might seem a rather funny thing I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to try and be your grandma, right? And I want you to talk to Kate. Tell her what you think about her.
What like?
Tell her what you feel about her. You're your grandma. Tell her what you feel about Kate.
That you look just like Dad. You look just like your dad when you were little.
Is that what she used to say to you?
Yeah. I used to love your freckles. When you came to see me. Because you like the bookmark with the poppies. She loves it lots and lots. And misses it.
Do you love Kate?
Yeah.
What did you do with her when you were little, Grandma? What did you do with Kate?
When she lived at Greenwood House, there's a park around the back. I used to go down and take her on a bike and play with teapots and stuff and have a little picnic with the dolls. I'd do a little after school and things. I looked after school. Sorry.
Sit back here.
Yeah. It's okay.
Okay. I'd like you to say, tears coming in my eye watching you. I'd like you to tell her how much you loved her, and you've already told her about, how much you miss her.
Yeah.
Can you actually say goodbye to her?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Goodbye, Grandma. I say it when I go see you. When I go see a plaque at Lonswood. Maybe so I able to say goodbye then.
You did?
Yeah. And take flowers at Christmas and then a birthday and things. It was a birthday last month and took some flowers then. My dad and my sister would go out to him and say goodbye to her.
Okay, I'm going to, are you sort of feeling a little bit empty in there?
I don't know.
Is it all right if I just touch you?
Yeah.
Okay. Often when people die, there's like, an emptiness. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is decide to put your hands on your tummy. Right.
Both of them.
Both of them, yeah. And just have your fingers so that they're just touching at the ends. Okay. Yeah. Try and breathe out through your tummy so that you actually, the fingertips just open up. So you're breathing in there nice and deeply. Yes, sit up if you need to. Okay, so just breathe in and relax. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I'd like you to close your eyes, Kate. You can just relax your arms now. Just close your eyes. All right.
Yeah.
I want you to think back to when you were little.
Yeah.
Right? And I want you to think of a time when you were with Grandma.
Right.
Think of a nice time when you were with Grandma.
Right.
All right, just keeping your eyes closed and just relaxing. And can you think of a time when you were together?
Yeah.
All right. Can you see it in colour? Do you see things in colour? Right, can you see what she's wearing?
Yeah.
What you're wearing?
Yeah.
Right. Are there any smells? Are there any sort of smells?
Flowers.
Flowers.
From the back.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
Right. What sort of things is she saying to you?
Tell me to be careful on my bike.
Right, because she worries about you. Because she loves you.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you feeling towards her?
At the time, do you mean?
Yeah. You're there now.
I think it's just silly because I'm not going to fall off my bike.
Right, so that's what you're thinking. What are you feeling towards your
At the
grandma?
time, I don't know, I suppose.
Is it a nice feeling?
Yeah, she's looking after me.
Yeah, so you feel you're being cared for and loved.
Playing with me because nobody else used to play with me.
No one's playing with you, just grandma. So it's nice being with her.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep your eyes
Thank you.
closed, but you have a good blow if you want to, and if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. It's all right to cry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got this nice picture, and she's
Just on a bench.
on a bench, and she's loving you and caring for you and saying,
Careful I don't fall off.
careful you don't fall off your
Because I've
bike,
taken
Kate.
my stabilisers off.
Because you're a big girl now, you've taken your stabilisers off now.
Yeah.
So you have to be extra careful, and you can smell the flowers, and you can hear her voice,
Yeah.
and you can see her. Okay. All right, can you get into that feeling loved, that she cares for you? Can you
Yeah.
get into that feeling and let that go through your,
Okay.
let that go through your body? All right. I'm just going to press your knee whilst you're having that lovely feeling coming through. Feeling loved, and a special little girl and a special little princess. A grandma who plays with you. Just enjoy that. Just enjoy that. Okay, relax and open your eyes. Alright?
Yeah.
Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and fill that big empty void
Okay.
up with some nice things.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Let's close your eyes again then. Right, take a deep breath. Fine. Right. Can you think of another time when you're with Grandma?
Yeah.
Okay, what's happening now?
Decorating Christmas tree.
You're decorating the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Right. And what are you doing?
Just putting out tinsel and baubles and stuff.
Right. So can you see all that? Can you see how they glitter?
Yeah.
And Grandma's helping you, or talking
Yeah. We do it together.
Just the two of you?
No, my sister as well.
And your sister. Right, and what's Grandma saying?
I don't know. She's like helping us choose where to put them.
And are there any smells?
I suppose Christmas tree smell.
Smell the Christmas tree. Are there any tastes? Tasting anything?
No.
Right. And how are you feeling towards Grandma?
Excited because I'm putting Christmas tree up.
Excited?
Yeah.
And you feel special?
Yeah, because I got to put the star on top.
You've got to put the star on top. All right. So let that lovely feeling go through your body. All right? And just let that lovely feeling, that lovely memory, enjoy that feeling. Enjoy that lovely feeling. Take a deep breath. Oh, that's lovely. Right. Lovely closeness. And you get to choose. You're the one to put the star on the top. And open your eyes. Right. Right, we'll just do another one.
Right.
Okay, close your eyes again.
Just,
Okay. Do you want another blow?
no, I'm right.
Just holding on to it. Right, think of another time you're with Grandma.
Yeah.
What's this one now? Your face looks lovely. It's a lovely memory you've got.
Just going for a walk.
Yeah.
Just walking to, I don't know. I think we were just walking to some shop or something.
Right.
Walking.
Is she holding your hand, or are you?
Just, yeah.
How old are you now?
About 7, I think.
Okay.
maybe 8, something like that.
Right. And is she saying anything to you?
Yeah, but I don't know what. I can't remember.
Right. Any noises?
Cars.
The car's going past.
Yeah.
And do you feel close to her?
Yeah. Skipping.
So you're happy? Skipping with someone you love?
Yeah.
All right. Can you get in touch with that feeling now?
Yeah.
Feeling close and feeling loved?
Yeah.
Okay. Just enjoy that. Just enjoy that. Okay. Right, open your eyes. That memory was edged with sadness as well, wasn't it? The others were nice ones, and they were... Do you want to have a good blow?
Yeah.
Have a good blow.
I like it. A box.
Okay, your eyes are twinkling. And some tears are for joy as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's almost like happiness about having had that lovely closeness.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do one more. Let's do the last one now.
Okay.
Right, so just close your eyes. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Right. Think of a nice time when you're with Grandma. A nice special time. Just the two of you. Just the two of you. Just the two of you. Right, have you got some time?
Yeah.
Alright. Tell me about this time.
We're in a flat, her flat, and made a knitting thing for her.
Yeah.
Like a picture of an owl, but you have to knit it.
Yeah.
Made that for her, give it to her. And she was really happy for it.
She was right happy for that.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Proud of you. Alright. What's she saying to you?
Thank you. And it's really good.
Oh. Alright. And are there smells this time? Can you?
No.
Alright. No flowers or Christmas trees or... Alright. Okay, so you're feeling close and you're feeling pleased that she likes it?
Yeah.
And happy? Right, so remember that happiness and let that happiness go right through your body again.
Okay.
Right through your body. Right. Right. Relax and open your eyes. How are you feeling?
Happy.
You're feeling happy?
Yeah.
Right. So some of that emptiness perhaps
Yeah.
been filled up?
I think so.
Right.
I feel better.
She sounds a very special granny.
Yeah.
Grandma, sorry.
It's okay.
And with what you're doing now, you see your sister and you go to the grave, were you saying?
It's like she was cremated, so it's like a plaque.
A plaque. And you take flowers there and
Yeah, with my dad as well.
with your dad.
Yeah.
So when you initially started talking to me, you were also feeling upset that your dad had not said his goodbyes.
But just
Because he'd driven slowly and
yeah.
got there after she died.
Yeah. But it was still sad with her, so yeah, alright.
But perhaps Dad would like to work on that for himself, because you're not responsible for everybody else in the world, are you? Okay, what makes you happy?
I don't know really. Just thinking about happy times with her instead of sad ones.
And can you do that? Can you actually start to think about happy times?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I have done today, so I suppose so.
It's, do you think there's such a thing as psychosomatic illness? Do you think that exists?
I don't know. I suppose it can do.
That people can make themselves feel ill because of the way they think?
I suppose they can, yeah, if they really want to.
But I think that if people can think themselves ill, they can also think themselves well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, when your mind's going down a little street of isn't it awful, isn't it terrible?
You can think it opposite as well.
Absolutely right. You can come back and go down a nice street that says,
Yeah.
look, all the nice things that are going on around them.
Yeah.
So having, you know, having said goodbyes to your grandma, and actually giving her permission to go as well, you know, giving her permission to die. And having said those goodbyes, you can now perhaps go back now to thinking about, you know, the lovely special things that
Yeah.
are living on. I mean, they're going to live on forever, aren't they? Do you have a religion?
Well, I'm supposed to be I'm Catholic, but I don't actually
Right,
really follow it.
right. So do you think there's an afterlife?
I don't know really. I'm a bit of both really.
Right,
Queried.
right, okay. Do you think, I mean, regardless of what your religion is or anybody else's religion, do you think then that perhaps some of the living on could be living on in other people, that your
Yeah.
grandma's going to live on
Somebody else, yeah.
in you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
And,
think.
you know, if you decide to get married and if you decide to have children, you know, bits of your grandma will go on through you to them. And
I always think they can still see you.
oh, you think she can still see you?
Yeah.
Do you talk to her? Do you think you could?
I don't know. I suppose so. Yeah, probably. I don't know if I'd want to though.
Well, it'd be, if it helps, it'd be a really good thing. You could chat to her and chat out loud.
Yeah.
Not in the middle of Tesco's, but you know, just when you're on
Yeah.
the road. And just, you know, say things you want to say.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you were little, she was a real secure person for you, was she?
Yeah, because my sister's a lot older than me, so I've had anyone to play with, because she was 9 when I was born, so she was a lot older. Mum and Dad were working all the time, so I just used to go to my grandma's after school.
So she was the first person you saw after school and person you did the talking with and
Yeah.
gave you big cuddles.
Something like that.
Okay, do you want to leave it there?
Yeah.
Right, well, just drop your shoulders, okay? And just close your eyes. And just take some nice deep breaths. That's it. Okay. Your eyes are dancing. I know there's tears in them, but your eyes are dancing.
I don't know, it's coming out now. Don't stop.
But I mean, physiologically, if you cry, you know, you actually release natural
Yeah, I know.
tranquilizers. But knowing things and feeling them can be
It's
different.
different.
Can't they?
I know you're supposed to.
Okay. Right. Well, if we leave it there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Kate, we've had a break
Yep.
and you've had a chance to get your breath back
Yeah.
after. That was really, really great.
Okay.
Can you tell me what was useful to you about that session?
I suppose it makes me feel a bit better thinking about good things instead of bad.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I feel better about it.
Do you feel any different physically?
More happy, I suppose.
And what about that empty space?
It's fuller.
So that space is fuller of what, would you say?
Happy memories.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. More happy now instead of sad.
Right. Were you surprised at the change?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think it'd really do anything.
And so if you put it together in a sentence, what would you say had happened?
Made you feel much better about things instead of thinking about all the bad things, think about good things as well.
So is that something that you might use in the future?
Yeah, just like thinking it through better and thinking about all the good memories and things like that.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Alright.
Thanks.
Okay.
So as you saw, Kate very quickly got into the emotional upset, rejection, loss of her grandma. I'm sure you found it very moving. I know all the cast did, actually filming this interview. Theoretically, what is around for people when you're dealing with bereavement is recognising and knowing about the different stages. The first stage being a numbness stage. People really don't believe that it can possibly have happened. How can people be going about their day-to-day work and cars going around? Don't they realise what this awful thing that has happened to them? After the numbness then, slowly there is an awakening by where the recognition that they're not going to see them again. The block that happens in bereavement counselling is that so many people don't allow the client or their friend or their colleague to actually talk about what it meant for them. And you really need to let them talk about every single aspect of the death or of the loss. In this case, it was the death of Grandma. What I was actually using was information and knowledge that people are often either very guilty or angry. People may talk about being guilty, as Kate did. Few people talk about being angry, because how can I be angry when someone's died? It wasn't their fault that they died. So you need to be aware of those two kinds of emotions that are around. In terms of therapy, and I use the word therapy as counselling, in terms of therapy, it's important to work through the loss. It's important to work through the story. It's vital and again important to get them to say their goodbyes. Kate did that very easily. However, what I normally find is that people are often reluctant to say their goodbyes because there's an indication that by saying goodbye to somebody, you're actually saying, I don't love you. Clients need to be reassured that, you know, the tears are highly correlated with the love they felt for them. You'll often have a lot of other stuff around that as well, about people having to be strong. And as you're aware, little boys are often told big boys don't cry and little girls don't show anger. So you'll often get, I'm saying males, but also you could have females who are very reluctant to cry, to give themselves permission to cry, to give themselves permission to grieve, that they have to go into this, I'm so strong. And often what you'll have near death is people pretending that their partner hasn't got cancer. People pretending that don't say anything because there might be a cure tomorrow. And the very time people do need to talk is when death is likely to be happening very shortly for people. You need to remember to give them time. You need to remember to allow them to talk. You need to remember to give them permission to grieve. And it's okay to cry. Kate cried easily. Kate was distraught with what had happened. She was also crying for her dad not having got to the hospital in time and having driven slowly because he knew he was going to be there all day. Kate adored Grandma. Grandma was someone who was there when she was young. Grandma was someone that she associated with playing with her, making things at school for her, and loving her. She was a tremendous loss. And that's important in terms of allowing children to grieve. Kate is 16. Often people don't think it's a useful thing for children to go to funerals or crematoriums. And it's really important because children are often very, very close to grandparents, because as you know, they often give them far more time than busy parents. In working with Kate, I worked on the theory of neuro-linguistic programming, which some of you may be familiar with. And what I was actually using was anchoring. Anchoring I was doing in her left knee. I was putting her in touch with times when she and her grandma I'd felt close. I looked at the 5 senses. I asked her to think about what she could see, what she could hear, what she could smell, probably even what she could taste, and also how she was feeling. When she started to feel good, I then anchored into her knee with pressure so that she would have some kind of ability to touch that later when she felt down. I told her that afterwards, even though I didn't tell her that in the actual interview. As I was working with her, it became obvious that there were lots of other issues. And as a counsellor, you do need to recognise that people can only take so much. There were other issues that I might, in a different setting, have perhaps looked at. But emotionally, she dealt with so much emotion with Grandma that I really didn't think I could open up any more areas. And the other important thing was to say to her afterwards that the reaction of working so emotionally with somebody is that the client may actually tremble and have a physiological reaction to that intensity of emotional therapy. And simply, practically saying to her, find a woolly and don't be surprised if, you do start to shake. So the important thing is to recognise the stages and stay with the emotions. Some people will find that very difficult. If you can't stay with the emotions, you shouldn't be counselling. You'll also notice in the film that I also had a tear as she was talking. I did identify with 1 or 2 things that she was saying. It's okay to feel the same. You don't have to have a heart transplant to know how it works. But I did actually say, I'm actually feeling this. Just sometimes, if it's your own stuff you want to deal with, then you need to either stop or refer somebody. Do remember that. And finally remember, when we cry, and we say we're crying for someone else, we're actually crying for ourselves. I guess some of you cry at Bambi. Do you know Bambi's not real? It's you you're crying for. Hello, Ken.
Hello.
Really nice to meet you.
I do, thank you.
Okay. So, what sort of issue do you want to explore today?
Right, it's an issue that really has come to the front this last 18 months in the sense that then it all triggers back to my sister, who lives in Plymouth in Devon. There's 6 of us and I'm the youngest. My sister's the next to me. And we had a very difficult mum. And things seemed to be going along fine. My mum moved from Edinburgh to live near my sister so my sister could look after her. My mum was extremely difficult and I don't have a lot of affection for her. My dad died when I was 11 and I really idolised my dad, and I had this fantasy up till about 18 months, 2 years ago, of my dad. And he, just this fantasy of dad, wishing things I did with what I couldn't do because of his health and one thing and another. He never came to watch me play football or whatever. And I had this fantasy, but for some reason, since found out, my sister in her anger and bitterness confided in just blowing everything to pieces. And I have a sister and brother in America, and my brother in America is 10 years older than me, and I kind of looked on him as a dad when my own dad died, and he was only 21, 20, and he was newly married and lived in Edinburgh about 20 miles from where we lived. And just about 2 years ago this time, because my mum and my sister's husband died Christmas time 18 months ago, within 6 weeks of each other either side, and my brother-in-law was 51 and he died of cancer. My sister, they came up to visit us, and my sister, for some reason, decided to tell me that my dad abused my older sister in America, who lives in America, not in America, and my brother, who I get on very well with, abused her when they were young. Now, I knew nothing of this, and straight away a photograph of my dad in his trilby and his double-breasted suit hanging on my wall in my office. Really the fantasy of the dad who I never knew but really wanted to know. And I chucked it in the bin. And I have nothing but contempt for my dad. Contempt for my sister for telling me, and it's caused a lot of problems with the family. My brother does not know I know anything. My sister in America, who I'm very close to, knows, but she's really, really angry with my sister in Plymouth because she says Kenneth never needed to know anything. He's innocent party of it all, and why did you? And my sister's now turning out to be exactly the same double as my mum. And no matter what kind of support and help you give my sister, she just keeps rejecting it, and she's quite selfish and just does not. And the problems from this has stemmed with her husband developing within 3-4 months, and then my mum being ill and dying. I've been down to Plymouth a lot, and I mean a lot, and my sister for some reason seems to think that I have no right to grieve, to have a problem, have an issue, and she just does not want to know anything about me in the sense of, if I'm fine, she says, how are you? And I'll maybe want to say, well, I've had, and she'll go, oh, I bought a record yesterday, I bought a new dress. And I find that very hurtful, and the rejection, and I'm fed up with the rejection from within the family. With my mum, my sister, Irene, the one who I'm on about. Betty in America I get on great with. She is brilliant. She's nearly 60 and she's like a good old sister, you know, she's brilliant. But Irene, I get this, and I get when she phones I think, why are you phoning, because you're not really interested in us. My wife is, I've been married 25 years very happily, and my wife is excellent in judgment of people and all that, and she never ever did like my sister and my mum, and she used to say at the beginning...
Irene?
Yeah, Irene. Sorry, she never could take them, but she was always very amenable, you know, welcome to the home. But we've talked a lot about it since, and I can understand why she didn't like them, because I've seen sides which I suppose you don't want to admit to, because it's your own flesh and blood, and it's people who you want to love and like and be liked, and that. So, what she told me, my mum was very, not good at the word, very spiteful and stabbing you in the back with giving you information which was not pleasant, and doing things that wasn't pleasant, and for my sister to keep going, it's like as if I'm reliving the last we had with my mum, and then going reflections, going back to my childhood of it all, and the whole scenario, the whole picture is really just kind of, I don't know, it's just confusing because there's so much information that to gain, and I don't know if I want to find out or just live with what I know and just get on with it. And I really struggle at times, especially when my sister comes, because I can see, this sounds possibly, I don't know, but I can see my sister's problems. We all can, because we can see it in my mum, but we can't do anything to help her, and she just thinks that we're wrong or I'm wrong, and I'm arrogant, I'm selfish, and I'm far from it, I'm the opposite. And all this really hurts me because of the fact of the type of person I am. That is not me. And it's the rejection, the selfishness, the others. I could go on for hours about what she's done and does, and it's all my mother. And when I used to speak to my mother, I used to be like this at the phone, because it'd be moan, 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 moan. And now I find if my sister phones up, I'm like that as well. And I think that's terrible, to be like that. I feel quite guilty about it.
And some of those old feelings are coming back again.
Yeah, definitely. And the anger I have towards it, but the guilt I have for, say, well, I should be doing more, I shouldn't have these kind of feelings. As if I've let myself down because I'm not helping her, but I've just given up because the rejection, or it's the take all the time, and not even give any consideration for my feelings. Perfect example, I hadn't spoken to her for 3 or 4 weeks. A couple of weeks ago she phoned me up out of the blue and told me something about the legal, there's problems with the will and all that, and I've talked to her a lot about it, but she'd ask for my advice or opinion, and when I say it, she'd swear at me, or not all the time. Why do you ask me? And it's like she enjoys knocking you back and putting you down, and I've just had enough of it.
Okay. Would you like to do some work on it?
Please do, yeah.
Can you take stuff out of your pocket?
Sure.
Whatever you've got in there. Let's just move this. That's feeling such a... so many feelings there going on, and so many different aspects. Let's see if this is of any help. Have you got any more bits or...
I've just got a hanky, which, that's it.
All right. Well, I'll just put those two on the side. What I'd like you to do is, I'd like to choose one of those things to represent yourself. Okay, and if you'll put that like in the middle, that's like you in the middle. And then what I'd like to do now, Ken, is choose different coins to represent different people in your family, all those people that you've been talking about or not talking about. I want you to put those that are close to you, near to this, and those that are not so close, further away. If you just do that without saying anything to me at the moment.
I'll use this as a coin, is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, or anything else in your pockets.
Yeah.
Right, anybody else?
Within the family.
And people who've died as well? Okay. All right. Tell me about this one.
My friend Graham, great friend of mine, he tragically committed suicide 2 years ago through depression, through a back injury, and then cancer, and he walked in front of a train. And one of my greatest fears is that my son's just gone to college in Norfolk, and when we're at the station, if a train goes hurtling through, I hate it. I like trains, I love trains, I'm a train man. I'm not an anorak, but I'm a train man. And I just can't stand a train going at speed, because it just reminds me of Graham just walking out in front of it. He was very, very close to me. He was a great pal, and he was ages with me, and I just loved him as a friend. So he's part of the equation as well, I guess, because it's all the different kind of emotions I have, of the guilt, of trying to help him, the anger at him not taking my help, the anger at me for not doing enough, and the relief that he's gone because he was in sort of a lot of emotional and physical pain. So it's all mixed there, but I think with my life experiences I think I manage that quite well, because I know he's got what he wanted, even though it's not what his loved ones wanted. That you have to respect people's wishes, even when it's maybe as dramatic.
Where is the anger in your body?
In my stomach.
Yeah.
In my stomach. Real, and then it just kind of builds up, and but it's the stomach, the feeling, because you feel the nausea and the tightness, the feeling sick, the feeling, yeah, that's when I feel it, my stomach, and sometimes it compounds, it moves out, and you get a bit. I feel it. My legs got funny feeling at the moment, just through, I think, thinking about it.
Okay. I'm just sort of shelving that at the moment, but I will come back on. And this?
This one there, that's my wife, who should be the close to my wife, and I have a tremendous relationship. She's great, Ruth. She supports me in everything I do, gives me great freedom. We have mutual trust and respect. It's hard to feel secure with her until the last 5 years, because of my own insecurity in my life. I've needed for her to show me nearly continuously, but I've learnt to understand that, and also to just understand Ruth more, and therefore I'm totally happy with it. I have no insecurities within our relationship now, but for a long time, for 20 years maybe, 15 years certainly, I felt insecure, and I really have no reason to, because of the type of person Ruth is. I have no reason to feel insecure.
So that's feeling really positive.
Oh yeah, always positive with my wife's and I. Yeah, we're great pals. She knows me like the back of my hand. One of the issues, my wife's not an open person as such, so she keeps her innermost feelings to herself, and I used to find that difficult. Now I understand it. That's her, and I have no problem with it at all.
And your wife, and this coin?
That's Betty in America.
That's your sister?
Yeah. She and I have developed
close.
Very, very close. She's just been over. She was away, went back 2 or 3 weeks ago. And her and I are very close. We weren't close as we grew up because of different kind of families, very, very complicated, and she lived with Gran, apparently, and things like this. So, obviously, because of what I found out about my dad, so I never knew why she lived with my Gran, but I now got a good idea why. But Betty and I are very close. We can talk to each other and tell each other off or say we were going wrong without offence. I don't take offence, because, and vice versa. And we're very close, and that is an issue which I find difficult to live with, in the fact that she's so many thousand miles away in Dallas, and you can't nip round for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And we often say that on the phone, how nice it would just be to nip round, have a hug and a chat and a laugh, because she can tell me off, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So, and
that's Ian, my brother in America. Him and I have developed a close relationship. Not in a sense as with my sister, because I feel less threatened by females.
When you say your sister, do you mean Betty?
Betty, yeah. Right. Sorry. With men, I feel there's always this macho kind of, image, and I can't be bothered with all that. So I can open up far easier to women than I can a man. But I get on great with my brother the last couple of years. We've had our difficulties over the years, and I can understand his problems, especially what my sister divulged. He does not know I know, and I would never, ever, ever, ever tell him. And I don't know what I'd do if my sister ever told him that I knew, because that would destroy a relationship what him and I have got, which is good, because we're getting on in life, and you need these relationships.
Is this Betty when you say my sister?
No, it's all Irene.
This is Irene.
Betty,
Irene
I beg your pardon. Irene be the one who'd be stubborn,
right,
because she's jealous of relationships,
right,
and things. She's just, yeah.
Sort of in your mother's image.
Yeah, and the sad thing is my mum and Irene also had nice things about them, but it's always spoilt by the nice bit. It's always kind of forgotten by the not
the
nice
knifing
bit.
and the stabbing.
The knife and the stabbing and the jealousy and the pettiness and the bitterness and the resentment, and which is a shame if we could get rid of that. But I suppose that's for most people.
I'm hearing you saying that you're close to Ian, but at the same time it isn't something you can talk to him about, and you don't want him to know.
I would not talk to him about it.
And you don't want him to know? I
don't want him to know that I know, because him and I get on great. We have a lot of good banter. No, there's certainly issues I would not talk to Ian about. Okay. Definitely not. Okay. Betty, I'd talk to Betty about anything. But right. Ian, definitely
Would
not.
Betty and Ian talk with each other?
No, Betty won't. Oh, yeah, they talk, but right. Betty would not divulge. I could not tell Irene something. Right. I won't, because right. It would come back to me some way or another. Okay. Betty and I are complete confidence. This is my friend Mark in Liverpool. Him and I have been in the army 25 years ago, 27 years ago, and him and I like that. You can't get any closer. Him and I talk a lot. We have a great laugh. He was shot when we were in Ireland, and we're just great pals. We've both had issues over the year where we've come, dropped and gone to see each other. But we don't talk I don't talk to him in great depth about my mum or Irene, because Mark thought my mum was a lovely woman, and he would do, because my mum was very good at that, giving out this thing, I'm a nice woman and all that. So Mark found it difficult in the early days to understand why, so I decided then that it wasn't the place to be. Mark wasn't the person to talk to, and I don't think good close friends are, because they may see a side of you that they didn't see and don't like, or whatever, and I'm guarded in that sense.
Would that matter?
I think it may do, because I've got a feeling they wouldn't understand. I felt that with my mum. Your mum would give over, your mum's great. And you sensed straight away that he didn't understand, because he didn't experience it. So I decided then that the best thing would be not to be going on about my mum, because he was always saying, get over, your mum's great. And she was to people who'd met her, and Matt knew her a long time, not closely, so it would matter if I told him, because I think it could, my resentment towards my mum and his lack of understanding towards me could possibly make, bring a little bridge between us, or a wall.
And this note?
That's, I have a brother in Australia, Seth, who is, I get on great with, but I don't see much of him. He's 65. I was just a young lad. I remember not even at school when he came home from the army and went and immigrated to Australia. I've seen him 3 times since. But he's great. He's got a lot of qualities which are typical our family. I mean the good qualities. Qualities of my mum. He's got qualities of what might well have been my dad, but I don't know, because of the issue, what I found about my dad. I just don't know what my dad, you know, come from. I don't know anything about his background or anything. So, but Seth in Australia, he's good, and I just wish I could see him more often. I've seen him 3 times in 30 years.
All right.
So.
And this one?
That one is, that's Irene. And
I'm hearing your voice change. Are you choking?
But yeah, I don't really. Irene, and the thing, I love Irene, and Irene, I know the niceness of Irene. The warmth, the warmth, but I know she's just, this exterior, what she gives out to people is not the cure, and I can relate to that. This, what I said earlier, I can relate to a lot of Irene's problems because of her background, her growing up, and her issue what she had with my brother, and also then what she found out about my dad. I can understand it. I've thought about it a lot and tried to see from Irene's side, and I've given her nothing but support. But this makeup of Irene's character cannot, for some reason, rejects it all the time. So Irene brings a lump to my throat because I can't have contempt for her, but I have a dislike. But she'll phone me up and I'll help her. If she come crying to me tomorrow, I'd help her, because that is Irene. But it really, it's like stabbing a knife more, because it's, oh yeah, take again. But I've learnt not to, I don't ask Irene for anything.
What's the dislike about?
Well,
I have a dislike for her. What's that about?
It's about us, her selfishness, her, I don't know, I remember, and I can try and now understand, I can have a quick temper. Now, right or wrongly, you almost say you blame it on somebody. And I blame my temper to a certain extent on Irene, because when we used to go, I used to go into her room, she used to go mad, scream at me, kick me, whatever, get out, get out, get out. And sometimes she had glasses, so I never ever hurt, but sometimes I'd kick her. And I'd get into trouble, and my dad used to have a stick, so I'd get the stick. And I could never understand why, but with the revelation, what I found out, because my brother lived at home as well, because Ian maybe whatever he did, then she related it to me possibly, even though there was 10-year difference. So that she couldn't handle any brother, anybody coming to any male possibly, and I understand that now. But I just think she knows me well enough now that I've not got an ounce of bad blood in my body where I would really do anybody any harm. I've got a skill where I can count to 10. I'd thump the wall. So the way she is to me, okay, you could feel like that towards Ian, and that's her issue, and I understand that. Or to somebody, but why feel to me, a little brother who never did anything, who'd go into the room to maybe pinch a pencil or ask for a bit of help with homework or whatever, but it was just get out, and scream and shout, and I hated it. I hated it.
So it was another bit of rejection.
Yeah, and my mother never seemed to do anything, and this is one of the things where my mother knows a lot of things. She's gone to her grave and she's withheld a lot from me, maybe to protect me, but I know my mother had a nervous breakdown and was sent away or something just after the war. I don't know, it's all bits I've heard, and it really is a jigsaw which I'll never find the bits for, so I'm just trying to, you know, to in a cupboard and forget about it, but it's difficult because you might find a bit and it
You're
brings it
burying
all back.
You're burying it alive instead of burying it dead,
yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah.
It keeps sort of popping up and grabbing you.
Just let me, I'm sorry, because we're talking with Irene, I'm not sure, to be honest. I just can't quite focus.
Stay with your feelings.
Yeah, my feelings are with Irene.
Stay with your feelings with Irene.
It just at times I can cry over Irene, because I'm not saying I'm a fixer of all problems, but Irene could get so much more out of me if she just let me. We could have a great relationship where we could get a lot, but we just can't get any. And I've got a feeling this is Irene's split. Because I've put her there and this is a bit Irene I like, but it's distant because I won't let her get close to me now.
So there's two Irenes there?
Yeah, she's two people.
Okay.
In the sense that she can be really nice, but I won't fall for the friendship now, or because I know what will happen if I let myself go too far.
Right, well, let's just stay with the Irene. Irene's sitting there in that chair. Okay. Now, I don't want you to censor your language, and I'd like you to be open and honest. And what would you like to say to her? She's sitting there.
I've thought this many times, and I've many times thought to say things to her, and Betty and I have talked about it, and if I said things to Irene, she would just let it go out the window and she wouldn't...
Okay, so we're not talking about her. Talk to her.
To her.
Yeah, she's sitting there.
Well, that's a case of I'm scared to say anything to Irene because you just jump in my throat. You'll straight away think that I'm wrong and you're right. And yeah, I'm wrong some of the times, but not always. I would just like to say I just want to help, but the help is just rejected all the time. So now that I know now that you think that I don't bother, I'm whatever, aloof or whatever, but it's been through how you have reacted to me. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom, but yes, there's times when you don't like me for normal reasons, but when you ask for my help and then quite cunningly and cleverly and enjoyably twist it and then stab back, I can't hack that. And if you're going to be like that, you can just get on with things. And the sad thing about it is, first you'll phone me and I'll help you, and I don't mind doing that, but it's only when you've got a problem.
Tell her how you feel about what she's told you.
I feel angry. I feel resentment. Your selfishness, your own anger, your own motives broke a vision I had, which as a little boy, because Dad died so young, you didn't have a right to break that. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to anybody with what happened. I was the innocent party. I hadn't harmed anybody, and yet I got to know 30 odd years later through your own selfishness, your lack of thought, your lack of respect for me or whatever, that you just told me something which just really cut me in half and just destroyed images and visions, and even the friendships within the family have been difficult at times because of it, because they knew.
Okay, I want you to sit there now. Okay, right, and you're now Irene, all right?
Right.
You've just heard what Ken, your brother's, had to say about how he feels and how angry he is about you're telling him about your relationship with his father. What do you want to say back as Irene? Tell Ken what it was like for you.
I wouldn't mean to hurt you. I don't do it deliberately. I just can't help it. I enjoy the laughter you have, the fun, the mucking about, the stupid little boy, what you still have now, which is good fun.
What do you think of him? What do you think of Ken? Do you like him?
Yeah.
Do you love him?
Yeah.
Can you tell him that?
Yeah, I love Ken. Yeah.
I love
do
you.
Love you. I love you. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're about your father? What were the reasons for you telling him?
Because I knew and he didn't know. Just tell him, but he used to go on so much about Dad this.
Okay.
But so did I. She called him Daddy.
Okay, come back. I'm hearing a lot of mixed emotions about the family. There's a great deal of anger towards your mother. I'm also hearing tremendous anger towards your father in terms of this, you used to use the word fantasy, this fantasy you had about him, this loving, smashing dad, you know, and doing things with him. You just to work on that stuff with your dad. Can you put your dad in that chair now? Can you tell your dad what?
Well, Dad, just my dad. Wanted to have a dad.
Just tell him what you think about him.
Nothing. I just don't know where you're coming from, or came from.
No, bring him into the here and now. He's here now. Right.
I don't know where you come from. I don't know what your thoughts are, why you did things. You go off on holiday to Portsmouth on your own and we don't go. You know, we get a weekend in leaving with Mum and Kinney and Irene. I don't know why you never showed an interest in, why you don't show an interest at school or taking us to the park and just watching us play football. I know your leg's bad, but to watch us play football.
How old are you now? You're talking to him now about football. How old are you?
I'd be 9 or 10.
Okay, so bring that into the here and now, and it's you now, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to say to him now about your feelings about what happened between him and Irene?
He was between him and Betty. It was Ian and Irene, as far as I know.
Ian and Irene, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know it is confusing, because it is confusing.
It was so many sisters at the beginning, right?
Yeah, Irene is Betty in America.
Yeah.
Was why Betty?
So what do you want to say to him?
Not a lot, really. I just really, you know, just don't really want to say a lot to him. I just don't have a lot to say to him, because as I look back on how he was with me, nothing, because you really want much with me. You'd go to the bookies on a Saturday, you'd go to the club on a Saturday and a Sunday lunchtime, where you could have taken me to the football, gone across the park, watched football with me.
So tell him how you feel about his not
I feel angry
taking.
with you. I feel you've let me down.
Right.
I feel you've been selfish, thought of your own needs and not your kids' needs, and to me...
Rather your kids, mine.
My needs.
Right.
Because me being a dad myself, then I accept that you have to have your own space, but you had your own space, but you had it all the blinking time. Anywhere we went, it was Mum dragging us along, and I think Mum resented that. Whereas you were doing your thing.
So you feel angry towards him?
Oh, I blinking do, yeah.
What do you want to do with that anger?
Right now I could punch the wall. I won't punch.
What about using this chair?
Can
you punch the chair?
I could do, but now that I've said it, I think I've got it under control.
Is control important?
Definitely. Yeah, it is important because I am volatile, and not in any harm to people, but my emotions can, I can rant and rave and punch a wall and then be sorry, and then I have to let my emotions out. I'm not one who can bottle it up. It's like squeezing a spot. When you get rid of the pressure, it feels less sore. So it's like that. If I get angry, I'll maybe have a swear to myself, or shout out loud if I'm in an empty room, or kick the wall, kick the cat, but not really. We have a cat, but I won't kick it. But I've thrown the TV remote away in anger. Maybe something's still got me, and I've thrown the remote in anger. But after it cost me £50 to fix it, I decided that was not a sensible issue, way of doing it.
You're towards your dad, and your mother?
Oh, a lot of anger, a lot of pity, a lot of pity, a lot of remorse. That's a lot of I should have been more understanding. Hindsight's a great virtue, but when I reflect and look back, I thought, my mum was such a horrible person to even the people in a nursing home at the end that they used to hate dealing with her. And I used to take that responsibility from Irene to protect her, especially with Peter being ill at the time. And they used to phone me, and I'd go down and try and talk to my mum. But she just, so anger, but anger with Mum and anger with myself, because I should have maybe done more, but on reflection, we'd all be richer, we'd all have their answers, wouldn't we?
Yeah. See now with all that anger.
Yeah.
We've actually come to the end of the sort of session. I'm hearing there's a lot of stuff you need to work on, and just reflecting over it now for you, how are you now feeling?
I feel okay in the sense that I've talked to you. I think I like to talk. I think it's good to talk to a stranger, because you've got no, your warts and all can come out, and they're not going to, with, as I said earlier on with Mark would probably be very understanding, but I don't want to put my warts and all on Mark. We have a great relationship. And even with my wife, because I think there's certain things that you don't bring into a close relationship, because people have their own views, and they may not understand my view, and therefore it can then become they don't like, or they can't understand. I feel happier talking about it, and I feel a bit freer. I've pushed a lot of things together. Talking to them, actually telling them, has helped me get it out, and I don't really have to go through that. I've told them now.
And that might be something, Ken, that you could do at home, get the empty chair and just let the words really come out, and perhaps even get a pillow and punch that, and because that anger turned inwards can create depression. Depression's a blanket over anger. But I'm hearing the healthiness, and I'm hearing the openness. But
I've actually written to Irene and my dad, but not posted it. Written a letter, read it, felt as if it's come out, and then burnt it.
But that was useful for you?
It was useful.
Yeah.
It was useful for me, because I just, nobody was about to, who I could talk to, who would be supportive and understanding and not judgmental.
Right.
It's difficult to find people like
Okay.
that. So I've written once to each, and I felt better. That was within 2 or 3 weeks of
Right.
I wrote to my dad first, and then I thought, oh, I feel better. But I didn't actually tell him what I thought of him. I
Right.
just,
So that's something you think you might be able to do in the future, actually say it.
yeah.
Because saying it puts it away from you. And
Yeah,
helps.
I didn't want to, because I didn't want to say it to Irene, and I don't want to say things to Irene now because I'm worried it'll come back. They can't take a criticism, which I can understand, people can't, but it'll come back to me,
Okay.
and I don't want to do that.
And what you might like to think of, finally, is if there's anything there you want to change. You know, if there's anything there you want to change. Need to leave it at that
Yeah, okay.
point, all right?
Yeah, thank you.
It's been really good. And we'll stop at that
Okay,
juncture.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Ken, the counselling session is
Yeah.
finished now. What did you find useful?
The talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
I found it hard trying to be Irene, because I just can't imagine, because of how she is, I just can't imagine her saying anything but probably maybe nasty things, and I don't want to hear them. But a lot of them would be untrue. I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I'm not, but a lot of them would be untrue. But yes, there will be things in my character that will annoy her, which is normal within any relationship.
What about the moving around of the coins and the things from
So
your
that was
pocket?
good. Yeah, I thought that was good. And when I put two together, I was confused because, yeah, I split Irene up subconsciously.
Right.
Once Jeanie said to put them, you know, I put Irene here as a distant because of the dislike of her character, but I pick Irene as things I like about Irene. But I'm very defensive with it, because I will not allow myself to really go, because any moment, through no real dig from me or what, she'll just turn things around or whatever. And so it's the two. But I thought it was useful. But I know the ones who are close to me, and but I don't want to burden them with it.
And is there anything else about that session that you found helpful?
Just the general, the talking, I think the moving of and Jeanie actually moving, and getting the you know, my coins out, that's helped me to look at it in different ways, and help bring the issue more to the cleanse it, to bring it more to sort of wipe the, you know, the pus away, the bad stuff, and deal with it properly.
So it sounds and energising.
Yeah, definitely, because it's given me different angles to focus on it, to reflect on it, and even to help me to be more objective. That's the appropriate word, to really analyse. I'm a type of person who does like to analyse things, but I try less and less to do it now, because sometimes you analyse things and you just don't know what you're analysing. So yeah, I found it very helpful on ways of just my thought process, and when issues come up or the issue comes up, to deal with it differently.
Great, okay,
So,
thanks,
okay,
Ken.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay.
Having seen that interview, what I was actually using theoretically was Gestalt's empty chair and Gestalt's idea of using symbolism to find out what the relationships Ken had with other members of his family. So initially he chose something, in this case it is a pillbox, which he used in the centre for himself. I didn't actually ask him the reason for his choosing that, but you know, that is something that you need to think about. And then he used different coins, and he put those that people that he felt close to near to him, and those that he didn't feel so near to him further away from his own central symbolism. Notice that I said, tell me about that, or who's this? And he would say so many things about them. Suddenly we had the issue of his best friend had committed suicide. I mean, that in itself, there was loads and loads of material in there and loads of things I could have worked with. And then he suggested that different people were closer or further apart because of his relationships with them. As he started, it was very confusing. He was from a large family, and he talked about different sisters and different brothers without initially giving them names, so it's quite hard. He himself said it was confusing, and as a counsellor you can very often pick up their confusion or their anger or their feeling of being blocked. The interesting thing there for me as a counsellor, which I haven't come across before, was that he actually used 2 coins for the sister with whom he had cognitive dissonance. There was an imbalance. There's a part of his relationship with her that's very positive, and there's another part which is very negative. This also came out when I used the empty chair method. When he became the sister, and when he talked about, how she felt towards him, there was a loving, and there was a liking of her, and there was a liking of her towards him. So this confusion went through several times, with both working with the symbolism on the table, with the coins exercise, and also working with the empty chair. Emotion seemed to be anger that was coming out. Although you'll notice that he used the word control a great deal. He wanted to be in control of his feelings. He was in control of his anger. You might like to think that that control also went with the situation in which he found himself, with incestuous relationships, and what he might be feeling there. Did he feel rejected? Did he feel angry? Did he feel jealous? Did he feel that other people were having his time, other siblings were having more of his father's time? There was also tremendous anger towards his mother, and again, that could have been another session in itself. And also he was associating his sister with his mother, and he was coming up with very positive things and then was coming up with very negative things. He had a fantasy of happy families, and this fantasy had been broken. He may have been feeling resentment that everyone seemed to know about these relationships, father with sister, and he didn't have any control, he didn't have any involvement. he was outside this, and that must have left him, or is likely to have left him, with some feelings of resentment. Secrets in families are very difficult. When people are coming together with these little secrets and the fantasy around what might have been going on for his sister with his father, the fantasy is often far worse than reality. There was confusion, there was a great deal of confusion. There was a great deal of things that Ken still needs to work on. And of course, after the interview, we talked and this was suggested. And there was a lot of self-awareness for him. And he is going to work on that. The other particular skill in terms of advanced counselling techniques was the use of silence. They do need to be able to stay with the silence, not to put ideas into their head, not to give them the answers, not to tell them what they ought or should say, but to let them, with the silence, eventually they will say what's really an issue for them, what's really going on consciously or subconsciously for them. So staying with silence is a really important skill. The other aspect is that you do need to remember that abuse in families makes everybody a casualty. So, alternative approaches to counselling. Which ones did you feel comfortable with? Which ones do you think you wouldn't really touch that with a barge pole? Really important to remember. Sometimes you may have to refer. It's really important to remember that after years and years of experience, you may be working with someone and up comes something for you, because we've buried things alive instead of burying them dead. Different alternative approaches? Which do you prefer? Warm, cuddly, accepting, loving, non-directive Rogers, or pokey, proddy, Gestalt, Fritz Perls. Rational emotive, Ellis, thinking, making rational emotive leaps and jumps, carrying all sorts of negative thoughts through your life, transaction analysis with the scripts, thinking you can't do anything about it, neurolinguistic programming. Different people approaches. I use all of them as an eclectic counsellor. I always use Rogers as a starting point. I hope you've enjoyed the video.